Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Right, let's go on. Let's talk about Power World, because I find how crazy it is. Like for example, with Power World, right, is that yep, still going. Cool. How crazy it is with Power World, because it's massive. And by the way, this is a completely self-inflicted gunshot that that's happened here, right? Because at the end of the day, like, all they had to do was just keep going through and yeah, no, I think it did stop. Yeah, sorry, yeah, it did. All right, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, my bad. I hit the wrong button. But what I was going to say was this is a completely self-inflicted gunshot wound. You know, all they had to do was just simply go through and just make a game. They didn't have to, like, the stuff that Nintendo was trying to do is just insane. Like, they're trying to go through and they're trying to copyright like game mechanics and shit. It's crazy. It really is. But let's see what Endymion has to say about it all.
Nintendo lawsuit has been a roller coaster of bad decisions that has led to one ultimate truth. Pokemon may be lucrative, it may be powerful, but it is not invincible or above the law. And now Nintendo's pushing back so hard, even the Japanese lawyers are kind of calling it quits. But before we begin, let's thank the sponsor of this video, Factor. While I love eating food, I do not like making it because I'm kind of lazy, but thankfully Factor hits both.
We're going to skip the ad. I'm sorry, Endymion, but we're going to skip the ad, bro.
Factor delivers fresh facts. It's even the else factors if you have to get your 5 ply do need it. Nintendo, because Nintendo refuses to accept defeat amidst their patent defeats. Yeah, this is because as PC gamers tend to lead. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. As PC Gamer shows here, Japan's patent officials are exhausted with Nintendo because Nintendo refuses to accept defeat amidst their patent defeats. Yeah, this is real, unfortunately. So the short version, in case you don't know, Nintendo tried to sue Palworld over a bunch of patents. It didn't work, and Nintendo is very, very salty now. Because the longer Palworld is allowed to exist and operate freely, the more mad Nintendo then becomes. So what ended up happening now was that Nintendo tried to push remixed versions of the patents they were already trying to use to squash Palworld, and it didn't work. So they tried to resubmit the same patents again with changes to them, which honestly I think that shouldn't be allowed, but that's copyright law for you. Anyways, it turns out when Nintendo did this again regarding their patents involving capturing monsters in balls and riding monsters as transport or summoning creatures to help you in a...
So it is needed. The toy ends up on the chamber floor. However, I do not think the Emma needs to remain a completely separate. The cleaner version is it folds into... Right, okay.
Game, and they even tried claiming that they own touchscreen controls against Palworld Mobile.
By the way, we can always cut it out if we don't want it. So it's true. We can cut it down for time if we need to.
Of all things. None of this worked in Nintendo's favor. Everything got axed by the Japanese patent office. But Nintendo, being who they are, they have enough money to buy entire countries, so naturally, they kept trying anyways. Japanese patent attorney Kiyoshi Kurihara claimed what Nintendo was doing here are things that he and other patent attorneys rarely have seen in standard patent practice, which doesn't surprise me because Nintendo is trying to break the world down to burn away Palworld at this point. So Nintendo is yet again trying to push their patent, which is number 2026-019762, which as seen here from the official patent website, as we can see on the right there under status, it says rejection decision under review. Good Lord, Nintendo. These guys are so hell-bent on erasing Palworld, they are resubmitting things with small changes to get any leg up on Palworld and Pocket Pair that they can. You know what this is like? You know when someone asks another person out and they're like, nah, I'm not interested. But then that person who gets rejected just keeps asking that person out, and it starts to get sadder the more they do it, and then it kind of becomes annoying, and eventually they're kind of just groveling like, please let me take you out. That's kind of Nintendo right now. It's kind of embarrassing to see, man. You guys are a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The crazy part is Nintendo has allegedly spent somewhere near $40 million in these legal fees just...
$40 million. Holy shit. That's how much money they're making from, like, Pokemon, by the way. Like, if they're spending $40 million to protect this IP, just goes to show how much money they make. That's crazy.
Trying to get Palworld like erased, and FYI, that's more money spent.
Yeah, because it's a threat, right? Like, let's face it, like, you know, people used to go out and buy Nintendos because at the end of the day they can play Pokemon. Well, now you don't necessarily need to buy a Nintendo. Now you can buy an Xbox or a PlayStation or a PC, and you can play Palworld. I understand why they're doing it.
On legal fees than Nintendo has spent on the development of Pokemon Legends ZA almost 4 times in comparison. So Nintendo could have taken that $40 million they just wasted and actually invested it into making a game that could outcompete Palworld and shake the heavens. But no, they would rather spend that money to legally ruin and annihilate Pocket Pair in Palworld because they don't want to have to work harder when it comes to Pokemon. Isn't that crazy? Palworld was made for $7 million, by the way. Nintendo could have easily made an amazing Pokemon game with 4 times Legends ZA's budget. Come on, man. It's just, I don't know, it's getting sad, dude. That patent, by the way, that Nintendo's resubmitting that is constantly being rejected. Dude, look at what it entails from the official patent page. Here, let me read it for you. It's reason to provide a game program, game system, game device, and game processing method that can cause a player character to perform various types of actions on a virtual space field. In the first mode, based on a second operation input, the aiming direction in the virtual space is determined and based on a third operation input, an item that affects a field character placed on the field in the virtual space is released by the player character toward the aiming direction.
So basically, it's being able to control a horse or an animal or a mount or whatever because of where you are looking and where you're controlling. So if that was the case, they were able to go through and they would be able to claim that, like, even in, like, Witcher, when you jump on a horse or something, they might be able to claim that as well. Or, you know, if, like, my game, you go horseback riding, like, they'll be able to claim that was a infringement on their technology. That is absolutely crazy.
Nintendo, come on, just the description there. Like, you don't own the patents. You can't own the concept of capturing something in a device. And by the way, if this is something Nintendo's trying to push, well, why aren't they also going after, let's say, Capcom with Monster Hunter? Doesn't Monster Hunter allow you to capture creatures with nets and pitfall traps and the...
Yeah, but, well, to be honest, the reason they're going after Palworld is because at the end of the day, it's more of a threat than Monster Hunter.
Like to? Why aren't you suing Capcom for that then? It's just hypocritical. It's not even sad anymore. It's just getting kind of annoying. This patent number 019762 is not going to go in Nintendo's favor. They already tried it because this stupid patent thinks that Nintendo owns the rights to, like, basically half, if not more, of gameplay concepts that so many other games use this day. It's frankly impossible to get this to pass the way that it is. Like, oh, look, I'm Nintendo. I believe I own the right to riding a mount in a video game. Excuse me? What happens?
So that's what I say, like, every horse, like, every game where you mount a creature could be in jeopardy by that stage, if that's the case. That is crazy.
If you win, then every game with mounts is cooked then? Sorry, Witcher fans, World of Warcraft.
Yeah, exactly. The Witcher, World of Warcraft, hell, my game. You know, like, even games like Atlas or anything like that. You know, like, even the games where you, like, go through and you, like, for example, you know, games like I'm trying to think of that game where you're it's made by the Atlas guys, but it's more about beasts and animals and stuff. But yeah, whatever it was. But Ark Survival, all that sort of stuff, it would all be under risk. It would be all possible to be taken care of. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Red Dead Redemption 2, Nintendo wants to own the right to you hopping on some sort of animal to get where you want to be going. You can't own that, Nintendo. That would be like Need for Speed thinking that it owns the right to driving a car in a video game. No, stop that. You don't own that. It's impossible. Next thing we know, Nintendo's going to say they invented oxygen at this point. But as seen here, Nintendo has brought up again how their claims were being used against them with Pokemon Generations. That's a fan-made game which Palworld's lawyers used as proof that Nintendo's patents couldn't work because they already existed in another game. But Nintendo claims it doesn't work or should be allowed because the game in question is in Nintendo's eyes illegal, because the fan who made Pokemon Generations doesn't own the IP, obviously. But the argument here is it doesn't matter if the game is not officially released or not. The fact it existed prior to Nintendo filing these lawsuits, while having the exact same systems working as Nintendo claims to have invented, but how could they invent it if it already existed? That's the point. It's why this all becomes a conundrum that Nintendo can't avoid now. They're trying it again. You can't claim that you own something that already exists. It would be like me saying, no, I created the heavy metal genre of music. No, stop. Who cares if I wasn't born in the 80s? I still made heavy metal, and I'm going to sue you for now pointing that out, right? Like Nintendo pushing back against the fan-made game that disqualifies their patents from being taken in good faith. This is why Nintendo's lawyers then said this. It is extremely inappropriate for the examiner to deliberately misidentify the infringing product as if it were a genuine product. Okay, we know Nintendo. They don't own Pokemon in that fan game, but you're still missing the point. That doesn't matter. What does is the concepts that you claim that you invented clearly were not invented by you because those concepts existed in something you didn't make already. Get that through your heads. If you don't own the right to gameplay mechanics this broad, even as PC Gamer said here, that's not how anything works, and in Nintendo's case especially, these things cannot be used in good faith. To then claim that you own the right to what you claim to own because you don't. You can get mad about that all you want. It doesn't matter. You ultimately cannot own something you didn't create or invent. Otherwise, every media property in existence right now would be in an unending war of copyright infringement laws all over the place. We would have Call of Duty and Battlefield unironically suing each other every other week if Nintendo got their way, because they would probably start complaining, Battlefield? No, we at Activision with Call of Duty, we own the right to shooting a weapon in the game. Like, everything would just unravel. PC Gamer then quotes one of the Japanese examiners in this case.
That's the thing. Like, you can't go through. Oh, apparently you can. Blizzard, I think it was Blizzard or Ubisoft or whoever did it, or EA, whatever it was, did it. But you're not supposed to be able to copyright game mechanics. That is so fucking crazy. It's crazy.
Let me read it for you. Nintendo's assertion of copyright infringement, the JPO examiner notes, has no bearing on considerations of patentability because Japanese patent law contains no provision excluding inventions that infringe upon the copyright of others. Whether or not a cited work infringes on copyright, the examiner continues, is irrelevant to the inventive step judgment, and this view is considered standard among patent practitioners. Bum 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 bum, Nintendo. You just got cooked by your own examiner here. You know what this means? It means whether a piece of art like an old fan video game in Pokemon Generations case, which is the example being used here, breaks that copyright law because the person who made the game doesn't own Pokemon, which they don't, we all know that, it is still separate from whether it proves a new patent idea is obvious. So Nintendo thinks because an old unofficial Pokemon game exists, it counts as an unofficial example that can be used against them. But the examiners are like, no, that doesn't work that way. That has nothing to do with the patent rules. If a gameplay mechanic or design was already visible to the public, which it was by the way, it shows that that idea is not new or unique, even if the person who posted it broke the law by doing so.
It's so fucking stupid. By the way, and some of these patents that Nintendo tried to sue Pocket Pair for, they were like even like before they fucking even like went into the law. They were trying to backdate these patents or put these patents in and then claiming that they owned them, and it was like things that were added after the lawsuit had started, and it was just so crazy some of the stuff that they were trying to do. It's just they really are like schoolyard bullies at this point. And I think a lot of it too comes under ego. I think at the end of the day that Nintendo has a bit of an ego. The company CEOs and stuff have their ego on them, and they're looking at this small company that's kicking their ass in court and they're not liking it.
No, Nintendo's probably currently punching holes in the drywall about all of this, likely roundhouse kicking bamboo in their offices or even their interns yelling into the sky like, oh, this Pal World game. I just want it gone. I want that game in the dirt. How dare...
Yeah, I think at the end of the day there's a bit of a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to them going through, and they've spent so much time and effort on getting rid of this game that now it's just it just feeds itself. Because now they're like, well, how dare they don't listen to us? You know, we're not Power, where Pokemon, where Nintendo, you don't listen to us, how dare you? So it becomes a bit of a sunk cost fallacy, because at the end of the day, if it's just your ego just starts writing checks.
These sorts of people oppose us, Nintendo. But you're still in the wrong. If you got away with this, all hell would break loose, and you know that. Thankfully, these laws exist, or everything would be in peril right now. PC Gamer said more. Further, the JPO said that it would be an absurd misunderstanding to think that its examiners misidentified the fan game as an authentic Pokemon product. And even if there were the possibility that the reasons for refusal could be subject to such an absurd misunderstanding, it would still have no bearing on the inventive step judgment. I just know Nintendo.
Such an absurd understanding. That's pretty good way to put it.
Nintendo's mad right now, man. They are like so much in the wrong here. It's baffling, and they just refuse to stop. The fact that the examiners of this case are this baffled by Nintendo's misunderstanding of what should be easy to understand copyright law tells us that Nintendo is obviously misunderstanding the law on purpose in order to hopefully still get away with it. But that's not fair, nor is it legal, which is obvious here. Palworld is doing nothing wrong. However, the craziest part is how the examiners of this lawsuit address Nintendo about using official Pokemon terminology by what PC Gamer calls advanced pedantry. So I know not everyone's going to know what that means. So advanced pedantry means when someone uses an informal term for an extreme focused obsession with minor details. So Nintendo is going beyond the standard correctness of what's involved here, that they are deliberately ignoring the actual context of what's going on in this lawsuit.
So are they... Hang on, I need to listen to that.
About using official Pokemon examiners of this lawsuit address Nintendo about using official Pokemon terminology by what PC Gamer calls advanced pedantry. So I know not everyone's going to know what that means. So advanced pedantry means when someone uses an informal term for an extreme focused obsession with minor details. So Nintendo is going beyond the standard correctness of what's involved here, that they are deliberately ignoring.
So is that like slang terms and stuff being used? So like if you have like a catch mechanic and say it's called sealable, but people use the term catch, is that what they're talking about? Maybe?
The actual context of what's going on in this lawsuit. Okay, now that you know what that means, let's read what the examiner said. If it's impermissible to refer to the character name in the reasons for refusal, then accepting some redundancy in favor of precision, the elements should have been identified as follows: an object in the form of a small animal instead of Pokemon, an object in the form of a boy wearing a red hat instead of Ash, an object in the form of a small yellow animal instead.
Right, okay, so they're saying... Right, I got it now. Yeah. Okay. So they're saying because of the fact that you're not using the exact same thing and that you're using something similar, we're still within our rights to sue you. So because you're using a object, a small animal, instead of calling it a Pokemon, you're calling it a Power World. That's still the same thing because you're using a different name for it. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Of Pikachu, an object in the form of a small green animal instead of Bulbasaur, and a spherical object with a red upper half and a white lower half instead of Pokeball. The reasoning the examiner brings this up is very simple, that whether Nintendo were to try to act as if they had any legal claims here by using, let's say, Bulbasaur as an example, over instead saying green animal, it wouldn't make a difference either way. Nintendo cannot usher in something they don't have direct legal control over, even if they were to try to use stuff that they do own to self-insert it to make it seem like they do own it. Nintendo still has about 3 months or so to counterattack these claims, but if this is how flimsy they're getting at this point, I don't see it happening. They're not even losing their lawsuit now. Nintendo is just embarrassing themselves in a court of law because they want to remove Palworld so badly. It's evidently clear they're willing to pull any rabbit out of any hat that they can find now. And hey, look, I get why Nintendo's so hell-bent on pushing this lawsuit, because they really think they can win this, even if they do it in bad faith. But when you look at how Palworld is doing, yeah, it's gone saw Nintendo shaking in their boots. As seen here from Yahoo and Forbes, Power World hasn't even dipped in player counts for over 2 weeks since the release of 1.0. That's not good for Nintendo. It means the game has staying power. People are playing it for the long haul. Man, if only Nintendo had, $40 million to spare to invest into a rival Pokemon game to defeat Power World. Instead of
If only, right? If only they had that much money to spend. Yeah. Who would have thought?
spending it on, legal fees over years, trying to sue their competition instead. Maybe they could make something greater. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But as seen here, Power World is comfortably hovering around the 700 to even mid 600,000 player count wise on Steam alone. The fact at 8 a.m. on a weekday, the game has over 500,000 people on Steam playing that game. Now, that tells you everything. Either a lot of people don't have jobs or a lot of people are avoiding their job to play Power World, which is that, yeah, they are obsessed with the game. They can't get enough of it. This game is like Pokemon on steroids for people. But hey, it's Nintendo's fault, isn't it? They didn't want to cater to PC players or PlayStation, Xbox. They wanted to keep Pokemon on their Nintendo consoles only. I get it. So what do you want? You can't really get mad that Power World is doing what it's doing when you kept your only competition against it on your platform alone. I get why Nintendo does that, because they don't want to share even a nickel with their competition platform-wise of any of the money.
That's what I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it is that they're so used to having no competition that when it comes to Power World, it's just that they're all of a sudden they're like, oh wait, hang on, we've got competition. What? This is someone that might knock us off the top. And I think that's the biggest problem with it, is that Power World is sort of got them shaking in their boots. Let me try again. Because at the end of the day, they're like legitimately concerned that they might lose that top spot, that Power World might actually take it from them.
It's made, but if that's how you want to do it, well, then you're gonna have to get comfortable with the fact that someone has to come in, fill that gap that you were missing, and reap the benefits, which is exactly what's going on here. Power World wouldn't never have existed if Pokemon was multi-platform, but there aren't. So guess what? They're making millions out of you because you don't want to do it. According to Alinea Analytics, take it with a grain of salt, but anyways, as seen here, Power World has apparently sold over 30.5 million copies so far, made somewhere over $700 million, and has an average of 3.7 million daily active users across all platforms combined. When you factor in Game Pass, which Power World is on, this number then reaches over 40 million players in totality. This means if we factor in the Game Pass numbers, it equates roughly to about 31% of 40 million, which is about 12.5 million users then on Xbox alone, which is astoundingly high. Most games that are live service would fight tooth and nail for a fraction of those numbers. I know Power World is in live service, thankfully, by the way, but the point stands that Power World is pulling Call of Duty numbers, but it costs a fraction, and it's basically...
Yeah, they built it for what, 7 million, 10 million? I heard 10, but they built it for $7 to $10 million? Holy shit.
Pokemon, but not exactly, so Nintendo's really mad about it either way. To put this into perspective for you, this means that Power World has outsold Pokemon Sword and Shield, which has a lifetime sales number of somewhere near 27 million units. It also, from what I can tell, has somehow beaten Pokemon Violet and Scarlet too. Those games sold a combined 28 million units. Other games pale in comparison to Power World as well. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, that's 15 million. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes, that broke 12 million. Even games like Pokemon Legends Arceus, that's at 15 million. Legends ZA, that's 12.
Yeah, but I will say too that Pokemon is only on Nintendo. Your Power World is PlayStation, PC, Xbox.
12.3 million. So yeah, Power World has officially sold more copies than the last few Pokemon games. So no wonder why Nintendo's so mad. And I know people will say, well, of course it sold more, it costs less. But yeah, that's kind of the point of it, isn't it? That he does.
Yeah, that's also a point too. It's cheaper.
AA game with a modest budget that caters to the same crowd as Pokemon outdid their competition that had unlimited money and resources is kind of a big deal, right? This is what I've been saying. Nintendo really has no excuse here. They have the money, they have the manpower and the talent. They just refuse to let their developers make games that are matching the quality or the talent of the people that are involved there. Look, it's not even like Game Freak is a bad developer or incapable of making cool games. I mean, if you didn't know, there's a game coming out called Beast of Reincarnation, which is coming out in August 2026. On all platforms, by the way. As you can see, this is the game on screen here. This is made by Game Freak, if you didn't know that. Yeah, the Pokemon people are making this like Souls-like action RPG adventure that's not fully open world, but open-ended at least, that looks light years ahead of what Pokemon is capable of producing.
Well, I hope they don't go doing anything that would break infringement for copyright.
Producing, both graphically and gameplay wise. So you're looking at this game and you're like, so how come Beast can look this good and play this fluently? But the mainline Pokemon games by the same developers look like they were made in some guy's apartment in like a weekend. Well, it's Nintendo. They don't want to spend the budget to push these games into that next level, so to speak, game development wise. They want to keep the budget smaller so the games are made faster, so they just make tons of money. If I recall, Legend ZA only had to sell something like 150,000 copies to recoup its development costs, and as we know, it sold over 12 million units. So you do the math on that return on investment, right? But that's the point here.
I will say this game looks great. Looks really nice. Looks definitely Chinese though. Got Chinese vibes. Or Japanese vibes. Asian vibes, I should say.
It's not really Game Freak that's holding Pokemon back, it's Nintendo. Beast of Reincarnation is the biggest self-report Nintendo could have made, or allowed to happen, I guess, but they did it. So that's what's happening now. Would I love a Pokemon game with the production values of Beast of Reincarnation? Oh, absolutely. But would Nintendo allow that to happen? I kind of doubt it, because the ROI is so high on Pokemon-related products, no matter what they do, they really have no reason financially, I guess, to improve. But with Palworld costing less than half of what Pokemon does now to buy it, I think Nintendo needs to stop making excuses for themselves. If you don't want Palworld, or God, imagine a Palworld 2 that is even more new and improved and all of that to blow the hinges off every door in the building. Nintendo has to stop being greedy, lazy, and complacent and start bringing their S-tier game to Pokemon games in development before long. Otherwise, the humiliations will continue, and the longer Palworld operates and grows, which it will, I think the further people are going to start questioning Nintendo even more. If Nintendo fans haven't already, I mean, whenever a Palworld 2 does get announced, I would imagine it's going to look amazing and play great. And it's probably still going to be cheaper than any Pokemon game to buy, and Nintendo fans are going to look at Palworld, see all the unique additions, the huge world, the gameplay, and all of that and go, well, why isn't Nintendo matching this? And that's going to become the norm eventually. Address it, Nintendo. Fly, you fool, before it's too late for you. Because as Forbes said here, Palworld is quickly becoming the next No Man's Sky, which if you don't know what that means, it means Palworld is going Super Saiyan 2 and Father-Son Kamehamehaing the competition into orbit, pretty much is what that means. Although this doesn't mean that Palworld is bad per se at release like No Man's Sky was. All it means is that the game, like No Man, is expanding itself to such a degree that the version that you can play now versus before is light years ahead of where it is now. And that's awesome to see, right? Palworld not being live service, offering free updates, and being consumer friendly is like, well, everything Pokemon isn't. Nintendo would never give you an expansion for free for any of their Pokemon games when they could just sell it to you at a premium and still make millions. But that's kind of why Palworld is so beloved. It's like, what if Pokemon wasn't owned by greedy suits who see their player base as consumer pigs but as real people? Wow, what a concept. Kind of
Well, just the way that Nintendo like reacts to like YouTubers and stuff like that. There's a reason I don't cover Nintendo games. It's because they want 50% of your income, and then after that you've got to then give 50% to Twitch or YouTube or whatever it was. You know, there's all these cuts and stuff. And you're left with like 20%.
like Nintendo back in the day or something, but no wonder Nintendo
Although I will say, no, none of my channels are monetized.
Wants that lawsuit to go through, because these peasants, they want their games to be good. Oh, we don't want that. And how feature content they love? No, we can't be doing that stuff. Best we can do is try to erase their safe haven so they only have us as an option going forward by wasting $40 million on legal fees. My God. It's kind of nuts that Palworld doesn't have a microtransaction store or anything either. They could easily get away with it too. They could feature unique skins for pals, new outfits for you, all that and more. I mean, maybe they'll do it in the future. I don't know. But the fact all of this is what? Not even $40 Canadian? That's crazy. If you paid for what Palworld has on offer in, say, a Pokemon game, Nintendo would want both your kidneys, probably your left foot, and your grandmother's ashes as payment. And look, I get it. Palworld has had actual cultural impact, unlike previous Pokemon competitors. The reason why Nintendo didn't go after most of the other monster capturing games is because they were not powerful enough to really challenge the crown in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
But the fact that Nintendo...
That's the biggest thing, right? The biggest reason they went after Palworld is because the fact that it was actually a threat. Your Monster Hunter and all that sort of stuff, it's not a threat like Palworld is. So, yeah, they're just more, it's like, oh shit, like this is actually a rival to us.
Nintendo was willing to go and do what they've done to break down this AA game. That just tells me simply that while the AAA industry apparently believes it's saying, oh, we do want new amazing games to exist, I don't think they really actually mean that. I mean, okay, they want new games to exist, but they don't want those games to encroach on their well-trodden territory is the thing. If anything, the AAA guys want cool games to exist in indie just so that they can rip them off if they have to in the future for ideas. But now that Nintendo has missed that train, Palworld's punching those tickets, and fellas, Pokemon could have been on other platforms. They had the opportunity, but it didn't happen. Nope, just greed, 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 man. Hey, if that's what you want to do, what can you do? Although personally, going after Palworld like you're doing, knowing that they cooked themselves by their own...
It just makes them look bad too. Because like you see like the desperation in these court cases, and you're just like, wow, you're so desperate.
Own volition, that tells me that, yeah, Palworld is here to stay, and Nintendo, they couldn't be madder about it. It's the sort of competition that will finally shake up the subgenre. Now that the floodgates are open and real competition is here to stay, Pokemon needs to, ironically, evolve, considering how not willing Nintendo has been for the past, I don't even know how long, decade and then some when it comes to things like this. Sure, Nintendo's biggest strength is their history, but history can become a weakness if a company becomes too dependent on it. And yeah, Nintendo has crazy intellectual property rights, and mostly they do good by it, Fire Emblem, Mario, Zelda, whatever, but it's also led to their own weaknesses because that temptation has clearly led to Nintendo in some ways to not really take risks but just rely on what already works, right? Why reinvent the formula if Pokemon sells? Why create something new like a new IP when Zelda or Mario has decades of brand recognition and people will show up regardless? The answer is competition. It forces innovation, and Palworld is the perfect reminder that this industry, despite having decades of said brand recognition, they are not immune to that disruption either. So, in the end, the future of games and franchises will be determined by competition. Nintendo has to respond to this, but not through bogus legal lawsuit claims, but actual gameplay innovation, right? We need to see Nintendo is willing to risk it all to create some amazing banger Pokemon games in the future, which means if they do that, which hopefully they do, we're all gonna win. I would love to play both Pokemon and Palworld, and I hope that's what happens. This won't destroy the market. If anything is going to help heal it, it should force these companies to have to earn their position and keep like before. Because neither Nintendo nor Pocket Pair is going to be going anywhere, but at least Palworld changed the conversation in a way that actually matters. Nintendo may not be afraid of Palworld itself, but it should absolutely be paying attention to what Palworld represents. Because for the first time in a long time, this whole monster collecting genre has a serious conversation about competition finally. And that's a conversation that could ultimately make gaming better for everybody. But what do you think? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.
I think at the end of the day, look, competition is good in the industry, right? Because it forces you to evolve. It forces you to compete. It's like Uber and taxis. Taxis, for example, had the run of Australia for years, decades. And then Uber came along, and then all of a sudden now the taxis are shit and blood because all of a sudden, like, oh my God, how dare you take our customers? Right, but okay, but you didn't have an app. You were ripping people off. You were charging ridiculous amounts of money. What did you expect was going to happen? You know, it's the same thing with Palworld and Nintendo, except in this situation, Nintendo is the taxi and Palworld is the Uber driver.
If you'd like to, and hey, we all win in the...
But guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just, yeah, I think competition's good. I really do. But let me know what your thoughts are. Right. What else? We're not going to talk about Zach's girlfriend. Although she is hot, but she's an OnlyFans girl. Man, what are you doing?
Well, everybody...
Alright. Alright, guys, we're going to check out it. Oh no, it's Alex, who, by the way, is an amazing guy. I really like his videos and his streams. So feel free to go and subscribe. It is Oh No, It's Alex on Twitch and on YouTube. He's put out a video a few hours ago. It's a little bit early, but we'll go through. I doubt I'm going to make much of an impact on him. Let's go through and let's see what Alex has to say.
I guess we've finally been proven right. That simple word of validation seems to keep creeping up every single time, especially if you're someone who wants to keep owning and having the option of buying a physical game after the year of 2028. You see, on Friday and over the weekend, we saw PlayStation Network, in fact, go down. People weren't able to play their digital bought games. People were locked out of their own digital libraries, and many people were, in fact, unable to even access PSN at all to play any game.
You know, I didn't have any problems with my stuff over the weekend. My stuff seemed to work great. You know, I put it in the disk drive. It worked. It booted up. It was great. It played. Yeah, I don't know why mine worked and everybody else was having problems.
Had DRM checks.
Gotta love physical discs, right?
Which they couldn't do because of PlayStation's own live service. And any game that had multiplayer, they couldn't play either because it required that online check overall. It's as if these companies don't want you to have ownership. What they want is to control you and when you can and can't play. But you see, things got a little bit crazy. They got a little bit hectic. Once PlayStation's servers came back online, it looks like yesterday, Xbox had their own set of issues as well, being down the entire day yesterday, as everybody was trying to figure out what in the hell was in fact going on. And even Xbox was trying to do the exact same thing. These are the two biggest players in the gaming space right now, next to Nintendo, not counting them because clearly they're going to be next at some point too, because game key cards.
It does make you wonder if it's some hacking group that's just going through the list, right? PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, Steam, you know, etc., etc., etc.
Require you to download the actual game, so it'll be funny when that happens to those individuals too. But watching as every other major company in the gaming space right now is pushing us as hard as they possibly can to go fully digital. Senior vice presidents of PlayStation, every analyst trying to explain it to you, saying comments are great, I guess, but this is where the industry is going. And every other person and pundit trying to say how you're wrong for wanting actual ownership in your video games, even though we've seen multiple games can come on multiple discs, and there's no real reason why we shouldn't have multiple disc games. We had them in the PS1 and
By the way, what's the average space on a DVD? What is the average DVD space size? It's like 8 terabyte? What? Yeah, 4.7 gig. Sorry, terabyte. Where did I get that from? DVD holds up to 4.7 gig. So, you know, like, God, how big your game has to be that it can't fit on a DVD. And you got the dual layers, which are around 8.5 gig. So how big your game has to be it can't fit on a DVD.
PS2 era, we can't have them now in PS5 era and PS6 and everything else in between when games are coming around at 150 gigabytes a piece? Oh, that's a problem now? Wasn't a problem back then, but now apparently that's an issue? You don't want to pay the 4 cents to make a Blu-ray disc? Good job. Way to save that money, dummy.
Yeah, and what's a Blu-ray disc? What is the average space? Blu-ray. So around 30 to 32 gig on a Blu-ray. So yeah.
And you know what? I want to be real about something real fast. I want to sidebar real quick about.
So hang on, does the sorry, I keep interrupting, Alex. Xbox and PlayStation. I think they do with Blu-ray. Consoles with disk drives support Blu-ray. Yep. So there's no reason why you can't use Blu-ray.
Something. I've had comments on my videos recently saying the most idiotic things you could in fact imagine. One of them was in fact kind of funny. It went along something like this. If you game on PC or you buy digital games, you have no say in this conversation at all. No, that's not how it's gonna work, my boy. Number one, being on PC for 25 plus years clearly shows me that, yes, I can have an actual point to this conversation.
Yeah.
I watched as physical media on the PC space completely evaporate.
Me too, by the way. I've been playing video games. Well, let's not go into that. It's a very long number.
Away out of my own hands because of Valve themselves. And even when Valve first announced Steam, everybody hated it because of all those exact issues.
I'll tell you this, I am that old. I remember going to a scout hall to plug my desktop computer in to a network cable so that we can play video games with friends. The LAN parties were great.
Games like Half-Life and Counter-Strike behind access to Steam, having an always online check-in. We saw this happen first before anybody else. And the funnier part is, it didn't take a year. It didn't take 2 years. It took 20 years of Valve fighting with their users, fighting with publishers, fighting with their entire user base. All the insane forum posts and emails being sent to Gabe Newell telling him he did the worst possible thing you could ever imagine. But it took them 20 years to finally get
his frames are dropping, or my frames are dropping, one of the two.
A refund policy, knowing because we've seen what these companies do. And get dragged, kicking, screaming, and clawing across the floor to not give you any ownership of your games whatsoever. After what happened yesterday with Xbox.
They're not like that. Why do you think there's some large sort of corporation?
And on Friday to PlayStation, it should be incredibly are two specific things. Number one, the ability to still keep your physical media. If books, movies, and music should be fully on the disc playable day one. I don't want to hear, well, our game is 200 gigs. Then put 4 Blu-rays in that box. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. And by the way, I will say this too. A lot of a little spoiler check for you, or a little peek inside the GameDev. A lot of your disk space, the things that take up, like 400 gig, 600 gig, 800 gig, don't actually need to take that up. What they do is they actually put multiple copies of the files on the drive so that they can access it faster. And that allows them to be a lot more faster when it comes to loading in and out. So like your Call of Duty probably has 3 copies of the same files on there.
Done and dusted.
After this, we'll put up another video. We'll watch another video where someone actually went through and removed that off a hard drive, and they got it. I think it was down from like 100 gig down to like something like 10, something crazy.
I had 4 CDs of Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, and
I remember the old iWar game that used to be out. Right, by the way, best game I played. In that, it had, I think it was 5 or 6 CDs.
Everything else across the board when those JRPGs came out back in the 90s. You're telling me back then it was cheaper to put CDs into a tray than Blu-rays are today right now? Sorry, bucko. I don't believe that for a fact. What I do believe, however, though, is that every company will skim every cent across the top in order to save money that they'll put in their back pocket and then make you responsible for the entire budget of the video game. You don't buy enough copies, guess what? They shut the studio down. You buy too many copies, guess what? They shut the studio down. Yeah. So it doesn't even matter right now about what's going on. And that's why I'm so...
There's also a lot of bloat in the gaming industry. So I can tell you now, the new Call of Duty, I got told, was around $800 million to make. That is absolutely freaking crazy. It is absolutely crazy.
So incredibly upset about this entire thing. That's why I'm sitting here and watching and seeing every company do exactly what I know they're not capable of or even ready of. And yesterday, in fact, completely proved it, because it wasn't just PlayStation, it was also Xbox that felt the wrath of their servers going down. Because according to Charlie Intel on Twitter posting, Xbox Live Services has been experiencing issues for the last several hours. Xbox says they are actively working to bring all services back online. Now, here's what I will say about Xbox. At least when their servers went down, they were communicating throughout the entire day what is going on and keeping people updated, at least through Twitter. Proper communication is the one thing PlayStation completely avoided to do across the board. Well, we know why they did, because every post they would make would be completely community noted, and everybody would be validated in their entire sense of idea of them removing physical discs from their games in 2028 and saying, you know what? I told you so.
But I will say that I saw a post today where apparently now Sony is selling a old style turntable. So the game that wants to remove physical media is now going through and selling a device that requires physical media. I had something to say about that on Twitter. It was not nice.
And pretty much they would just get cooked 6 ways from Sunday. But at least Xbox had the stones to go out and say, hey, we're having these issues. We're having these problems. Here are the updates. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working. We're going to keep going and doing more. And that's exactly what people, in fact, wanted to see. Even though they were angry, at least the one thing Xbox did was communicate. Unlike PlayStation putting a gag order on their own employees. But the promise for Xbox, Microsoft, and even the gaming industry didn't stop there. Because things got a little bit out of control. Well, they got a lot out of control. Because according to Windows Central posting, update, Xbox Live is still down 16 hours after issues began. Microsoft says the teams are hard at work and committing multiple investigations. It's not the worst outage in Xbox history, 96 hours, but there's still time. With the article saying, according to Xbox Live server status webpage, currently its account and profile, store and subscription app and mobile, and games and gaming functions are unavailable thanks to outages, but Xbox engineers are currently working on fixing them, and they'll let players know once they're back up as soon as possible. Faith in digital media has been heavily shaken in recent weeks, what with Sony discontinuing games and pulling 500 movies from people's accounts without refunds. With these recent debacles at Xbox, it's...
Was that 500? That's crazy. I heard it was a few, but I didn't think it was 500.
Adding more fuel to the hot debate about whether piracy is the only way to preserve and own games without being shackled to online servers prone to system failures or DDoS attacks that could permanently damage them. We're going to stop right here for half a second.
Hang on. Okay, hang on. We might have a problem here. Eric turns from the blow. Right. Right, okay, so this is where it changes. Yeah, right. So this is where it changes here. Got it.
Because even when Windows Central totally understands and recognizes that piracy is going to be the true way of having proper ownership in this gaming space in 2028 and even beyond, that's when you know things are going to hell in a handbasket. What you want to be able to do is to buy the game physically, own the game, play it on your damn console, and be done with it. You shouldn't need account sign-ins. You shouldn't need online checks. You shouldn't need DRM policies. And the same thing should apply with digital games as well. All Xbox has to do is put a damn disk drive in the next generation console PC hybrid.
I'll tell you what, if Xbox, and there's rumors that they are, if Xbox puts a disk drive in the next console, they're winning the culture war. Hands down.
Or whatever you want to call it, and give access to every other storefront like GOG, Steam, and even Epic Games, and you'll see so many people stop and say, you know what, why am I going to restrict myself to being only on PlayStation when I can get every other storefront in one spot and have physical ownership of my games no matter what. So even if Xbox Live goes down, I can access my games on Steam, I can get my games on GOG, and if I need to, I can sail the damn 7 seas if it's necessary. But there's even more, because apparently people on Twitter were also very unhappy. With Spawnwave tweeting, "Not great timing for Xbox," showing the actual status page of Xbox and every other major service being unavailable for the user. With Miria-chan also tweeting, Xbox showed why we need physical games tonight. Anyone whose Xbox has been online in the last few hours has had their licenses revoked for every non-free digital game. Error code 0x87E107DF. Even if you set it as your home Xbox, it was revoked and you can't play it offline until it's fixed. Now look, even with all of this happening, Xbox Live servers going down, people saying that disc-based games work, people saying that non-free licensed games are being revoked from your library because they can't access the network, all of that sounds terrible, am I right? It really does, and it's actually not a good thing for our digital future. What if I told you, though, that it gets worse for Xbox, and it gets into a situation that people aren't ready to have that conversation for? In fact, it gets so bad that even your disc-based games weren't working for quite some time either. Because according to The Verge posting, Xbox's huge outage even blocked games on the disc.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I suppose if the disc actually is checking with the Xbox service to see if it's legitimate.
With the article stating, Xbox's status page initially reported the outage on Sunday at about 11 p.m. Eastern, and it has also prevented people from logging in, launching apps, or finding some games on the Xbox store. This morning, the page also noted that users, quote, may have problems playing their digital and disc games, which posts on social media confirmed. During that time, my colleague Richard Lawler was able to launch digital games he owned, but trying to boot up games tied to Game Pass popped up the error code, indicating the license couldn't be verified. The status page still says that users might run into issues with digital and backwards compatible games, but it also indicates that disc-based games should now work. Xbox, in a 5:26 p.m. Eastern post on X, says that it's also, quote, making progress on recovery, and that most players, quote, should be able to launch titles and complete purchases again. The company hasn't replied to a request for comment. With the Xbox Reddit posting, live service currently down. Might just be a UPnP error on my end, but the down detector has a spike right now. With Zoof saying, move to digital, they said. It's way more reliable than discs, they said. With Standard Row 8056 saying, my physical discs aren't working either. So let's talk about the real problem that Xbox is going to be having. Even if next generation of the Project Helix is a actual PC console hybrid, or just basically a PC if you really want to think about it, and it has a disk drive, it personally, in my opinion, still won't matter. You'll still be beholden to being online and having those online check-ins. It's as if the Xbox One era never in fact went away. And I know what you're probably thinking, Alex, there's no way you can make that kind of a statement. That doesn't even work or make any sense. Aha! Contraire mon frère. This is the part that really gets a bit dirty. Look at it from this perspective. The majority of Xbox games that are sold on PlayStation only have the installation file on the disc.
Yeah.
Doom the Dark Ages, you had to download the game. It had 85 megabytes of data on the disc. Halo Campaign Evolved had what? 50 megs of data on the disc? Yeah, that's a 100 gigabyte game. You had to download the rest of that game in order to actually play it on your PlayStation. So even if Xbox is still going to be putting discs next generation, that doesn't mean you're going to have the entire game physically on that disc ready to go day one. In fact, Does It Play has actually shown that the majority of PlayStation games, 94% of them are playable off the disc without needing any sort of download whatsoever. Xbox has to get beyond that to a next step overall. Pay the money to put the Blu-rays in the cases and sell the cases complete with the game at the 1.0 state on the disc. That should be how everything should be done. I shouldn't need to go online for you to check if I've been a good boy to go through and turn around and finally play the video game, or in fact download it because you want to have an online check-in. No, that's not how this works. The check-in already occurred. I paid the money to you, either physically or digitally, and I bought the game. Xbox should do far more than what PlayStation is doing. They should give DRM-free games to their entire users. They should say, this is your purchase. Did you buy it? You had the license day one on your account. It's permanent. We can't take it away. We can't get rid of it for you. That's how it's got to be. If it comes down to it, put multiple Blu-ray discs inside that one game case and sell the game complete. If it goes to digital, then we have to have other ownership rights and other storefronts to compete for our money to even buy your hardware in the first place that you're trying to sell for well over, it's going to be probably about $1,000. And even then, with every other kind of plan they're trying to put out, with Game Pass streaming on ads and everything else across the board, all it feels like right now is that these companies are trying to take advantage of every single user as much as they possibly can and try to take every single red cent they can out of their back pocket while leaving the customer with literally nothing at all. By the way, we're not using the word consumer anymore, we're using the word customer. So if a company is anti-customer, then we know exactly what they're trying to do. Consumer makes you sound like a pig.
I would say, look, you know, when it comes to our game, I know I wanted to let him rant that for a bit. When it comes to our game, right, what we're going to do is we're going to have it so that the single player campaign is, once you've brought it, you own it, there's no checks. It just, you can disconnect your LAN cable and you can play your game and it will work. And that's literally how we're going to set up the single player campaign. I don't get why it's such a... I get why. But the reason they do this, right? Peek behind the curtain. The reason they do this is because at the end of the day, they go through and they want people to be online so they can boost their numbers. Look how many active users we've got online. Stuff like that. So this one here is wrong. Whisper of Steel, it's wrong. That's the problem, right? But yeah, as I say, you know, obviously you'll need to be online for the multiplayer, obviously. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, you should be able to just go through and no, we want this one here.
You got respect. You're a customer, damn it. Act like one. And you know what's even funnier? I'm not the only one that feels this way. Friend of the channel, RGT85, had this to say on Twitter. RGT85 quote tweeted Xbox support 12 hours ago saying, "You who are fine with everything being digital have been taking some great L's the past few days with PSN, and now this."
Yeah.
I knew I liked that guy for a reason, even though he wears really funny colored shirts. He's not a bad guy. The thing is, RGT85 and myself are in fact actually correct. We've watched as the entire internet has been trying to defend PlayStation and Xbox going all digital, giving us every excuse, every analyst giving us the reasons behind all of this when we all know what the reasons are. It's greed. It's money. That's literally what it is. We don't have to be explained about it. We know it. And yeah, we're going to be choosing the more convenient option, but that doesn't mean we don't want an option to disappear from our users or disappear from our actual purchasing power. That's not what we want. We want to have convenience, absolutely, just like we said before, but we also want to have the ability to own the things we buy. It's also kind of funny how the exact moment that we buy something, the servers go down, nobody gets a refund. Wait a minute. Nobody gets a free month of PSN or Xbox Live Gold? Hold on a second. Nobody gets a free month of Game Pass, at least for the very issue about what's been going on. Nobody gets a free game, at least, about what's been happening. These are all ones and zeros. They're all digital. These aren't real products. They don't exist.
Well, no, I would disagree with that. It does cost them money. If they gave a free month to everybody, right? How many active users does Xbox have? They gave everybody a free month, then that would be, they would lose anywhere from $15 to $25 per person per free account or free month they give out. So, you know, that is a loss. It is a loss. I understand why they don't do it.
It's like trying to convince somebody to buy.
I'm not saying it's right. I understand why.
An NFT of a damn JPEG monkey when I can right-click Save As and keep it for my own. These companies, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, they all want to go full digital, and the only reason is because of money. But the problem is this: if you're going to force a person to go all digital, why on earth would they stick with you when they don't own anything, when they have no refund policy, when they have no way of actually having ownership of their content or the things they buy? You ask for their real money, but you don't give anybody a real product that they can own back in return. That is not a deal that we're willing to make. And it clearly shows that the gaming industry is absolutely across the entire board. Xbox needs to do more for its actual users. They have to do more for next generation, giving you the full game on the disc, giving you an actual permanent license to that game that they cannot revoke the second that game is purchased on your account, just like Steam. Valve may delist a game from sale, but they don't remove the game from your actual library. Because if they did, guess what would happen? Yo ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho ho, yo ho. And the more that these kinds of policies and plans are put into place, I feel the more people are going to be pushed towards getting into piracy, getting into PC gaming, and even buying themselves an overpriced Steam machine because they don't want to deal with the insanity of what these companies are trying to pull the wool over their eyes and not give them anything for their hard-earned money. Xbox, PlayStation, and everybody else has to do far more and far better for their actual customers and make sure that they're taken care of. Because if these companies are dying for all the money that we have in our back pockets, then they need to do more for us to open those wallets in the first place. And I'll give credit where credit is due. I'm glad Xbox figured everything out. I'm glad they provided updates about what's going on. And I'm glad they're being more communicative. But the real issue is the fact that they're still going all digital. The real issue is still the fact that the discs themselves don't have the entire game on that Blu-ray at all. And everybody's incredibly worried about next generation and even the health of the gaming industry. Because right now, everybody is making really bad bets. But you know what? I want to hear what you guys got to say about this in the comment section down below.
I'm generally against all digital. I don't like it at all. My biggest problem with it is quite simply is that if you're a bad boy and you say something that the internet doesn't like, you lose your you lose your game library, and that's a problem. So that's my problem with it, is just the fact of the fact that you lose. But yeah, I don't know, guys. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. To be honest, I kind of agree with him on most things here. I don't think it's a good idea to go all digital. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Alright, what else have we got? Oh, let's watch that video I showed you about. We reduced the size of games.
With today's new patch in Helldivers.
Yeah, I think it was Helldivers that did it.
With today's
Alright guys, this is a bit of a flow on from the previous topic, where we were watching Alex, or oh my god, it's Alex, talk about physical media and whatnot. I mentioned in that we were talking about how one of the games they went through and they reduced a lot of the disk space The game was actually Helldivers. Now, I thought it was more than this, but they dropped it down from, I think it was 225 gig to 135. Yeah, so 155. They dropped it down from 155 gig, that's right, down to 22 gig. So we're going to watch the video explaining how they did this and what happened.
With today's
and this is sort of also combats why you can have big games on disk space, on DVDs, CDs, and stuff like that. So let's jump into it and let's watch what Helldivers did to, like I said, basically remove their game or drop their game size from 155 gig to 25 or 22 gig.
new patch in Helldivers, we have gotten one of the biggest updates to the PC version of the game that we have ever seen. They have reduced the file size of the game, and you can read here, from 154 gigabytes to 23 gigabytes, for a total saving of roughly 131 gigabytes, or 85% of the game files. This is massive because I know that so many people refuse to install the game now because it's just so large. It takes up so much space on your computer. It's not really worth installing if you play any other games a lot of the time. Now, right now, this is only in a sort of beta test on Steam, and I'm going to show you actually right now how you can get into that. So go to your Helldivers 2 install on Steam, right click on it, go to Properties. This will open up this menu here, go down to Betas, and in this little window here for beta participation, you want to go in here and click Prod Slim, which is the slim version of Helldivers 2, which is going to be, going forward, this is going to be the main version of Helldivers 2 once they are done testing it out in the public. So, all you do is click Prod Slim, and boom. Let's look at how big the game file size is. 22 gigabytes on my SSD. This is massive. This is a huge deal. And here, we'll even launch the game right now and I'll show you. Here it is. This is running on the same Steam library version of Helldivers 2, but just on 22 gigabytes. This is my secondary account on PC, so I don't really have a lot on here, but look at all the war bonds, everything, it's all in the game. There's no cut content or anything. You're not missing on anything here. This is all just the same game, but running on 22 gigabytes. So make sure that if you are playing on PC, go get this installed right now, and don't mess around with this. Again, this going forward, this is going to be the main version of Helldivers 2 on PC once they're done testing it. So jump in right now. Don't waste any time messing around with the clunky 150 gigs. Just reduce your file size, and it's even better than it is on console, actually. On console, it's like 40 or 50 gigs. On PC, it's even smaller now, and I'm really happy about this, because finally, I can probably convince some of my friends to come play again.
So the reason this worked and what happened was, right, was they went through and they basically, from my understanding, was your computer basically keeps 3 or 4 files of every file. And what they did was they went through and they basically went through and removed this, and basically just, especially now with, like, you know, SSDs and IME, whatever it is, drives and stuff. They don't need the reason that used to be on the discs like that was because it's like speed. This didn't really do. Actually, I could probably just bring it up in chat. Could ask chat why they did this. Pin Mythic Earth. While she's doing that, we'll finish doing this. So on-screen action, we want that instead. On-screen action, we want that. That we can delete. Camera movement. Sorry, not that. Camera movement is not applicable. Right. Camera position is not applicable. Delete. That we delete. That we delete. And that we delete. So computer focus is that. And the lighting color is none. Right, and the sound is heartbeat stops. A rapid movement through clothing. Through cloth. Clean respiratory steel. Right, and then the shrink. Right, and then the storyboard frame. Is a black panel labeled. Whisper of steel. And then we'll do the production notes. And that. So this is, what size is this? 8.5. Right, so here, they didn't somehow compress. No, PC installation was enormously bloated because it contained many duplicate copies of the same asset. So what Arrowhead had been doing, Helldivers 2 completed common asset textures, models, sounds and effects into numerous different data packages. For example, the same rock texture might appear separately inside several biomes or mission bundles. Ah, okay. That was done for players using old mechanical hard drives. Right, okay, that's where it was. The hard drive had a physical read head that must move around the disk, keeping everything needed for a mission physically together to reduce that movement. Therefore, developers sometimes duplicated an asset beside every level or package that used it. SSDs have been effective in neglecting sleep time, so they can retrieve one shared copy from elsewhere without the penalty. So, makes sense. But yeah, they basically dropped it from 154 gig down to 23. So, yeah. Or around, they dropped it around 85%. So that's why it works. To be honest, it's actually a really good thing. I still can't believe that they would be putting multiple copies of things. Look, I suppose I'm doing it sometimes too by accident. We'll probably have to do the same thing ourselves. But it just gives you a chance to put a more reasonable size of your game. But guys, yeah, that's how it works. And yeah, it's quite good actually. Let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. But this is the fate of all games. You know, they can go through and they can do this now. And yeah, hopefully a lot of your games can drop down in size. Right.
Oh! Parry this! Wait,
hold on, I gotta do something. Everyone move out the way. Place!
Hassan, stop! Stop, Hassan! Don't worry. P, don't worry.
No, please!
P, it's a sound caller. It's a sound caller. Don't
Oh,
worry.
it's just a sound color. Oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's just a sound caller.
Oh, thank
Don't
God.
worry.
It's guys, just a sound color.
Sit down, you dirty dog!
Oh, God. Oh, God. That was a close one. That was a close one.
Yeah, we don't understand. There's zapping more dogs.
Somehow he managed to make another fucking video about this shit. I don't know how this happened, but he did. Let's get it.
So we probably won't upload this to the gaming channel. We'll just watch this as a little private thing. But let's see what's happening.
Massive day for the unemployed. That's me.
Asmongold got a girlfriend, and it's genuinely insane. Stuff is getting crazy. A while ago, Hassan sent his fat crony to go after Asmongold, and now his girlfriend's defending him.
He was how did this happen? He looks like right? He probably gets no fucking pussy. Asmongold, whatever the fuck his name is.
I don't know, man. There's clout. He's got clout.
Is this a millennial thing where they judge their self-worth and how much pussy they get?
It's what former fatties do. So, like, what fatties and former fatties do is they have to act this way because it just makes them feel good.
Do girls suck his disgusting?
I have no idea, but I don't.
Is that what he even likes? What does he do with his fucking?
Why are you thinking about this? Why are you thinking about girls sucking him off? Bro, tell me you're gay without telling me you're gay.
Today we remember George Floyd.
It's like all roads lead to Rome, except it's all roads lead to George Floyd.
This is Tel Aviv!
But what did he stream? How did he get famous? Fucking
World of
Minecraft?
Warcraft.
Oh my
Minecraft.
God!
Yeah, no.
World of Warcraft guy?
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? That looks like you. If you told me that you played World of Warcraft, everybody'd be like, yeah, for sure.
That fucking guy came.
What do you mean? He looks like he'd be a guild leader.
He does.
Like, are you serious? You're the one to talk. I don't think I need to say more. I don't need to say more. Okay, like, literally fat people's opinion don't matter, so.
She mocked that dude back to Papa John.
Literally fat people's opinion don't matter, so.
She mocked.
That's crazy. Man.
That dude back to Papa John's, bro.
I don't even know who that is. Literally never seen him in my life. Yeah, the crazy thing is people, I don't know. I mean, okay, like he talks about not showering a lot. Like people have this crazy assumption that he smells like absolute I've smelled way worse from people that actually shower.
Bro is not beating the allegations. Even while defending him, his girl couldn't admit that he showers.
Like he genuinely doesn't smell like anything.
Yeah, exactly, because I don't need to shower. Fat people have to shower because...
By the way, if he's not leaving his house and he's like not sweating or anything like that, then does he need to shower? I don't know. Yeah.
They smell bad because they're sweating like pigs all day.
Yeah.
A normal person doesn't have to shower every day, but a hog does. A fatty does. They have to shower sometimes twice a day. And even then, they smell like shit.
Like maybe he smells old, like, because...
Asmongold's even older than Hassan. It's...
We don't need to talk about this. We don't need to talk about this at all.
Over for him.
I don't need
anyone
to hear,
anyone that
to
says
this.
like, oh,
I don't
like
want it.
anyone that comments on how Asmon look, like, oh, how does he get her? Like he's so ugly. No.
Asmongold's not even an ugly dude. Like, the beard and his hair, it works for him. Admittedly, he was pretty greasy without it, but I digress.
He actually mocks me. This man wake up, open
So
his
back in
eyes,
the
and
day-
he's ready to go out. Okay, I need to take like at least 2 hours, hair, makeup, everything.
That's why men are
That's just a typical woman, to be honest.
more attractive than women on average. Is women have to spend hours just to look the same on the same level as a man. Like a man can just get up in the morning. He don't need makeup. He doesn't need anything. He just wakes up and he just is like that. That men are way more on a baseline. On a baseline, men are more attractive than women. It's not even close.
Can't do that. Wish I could.
Objectively.
And I wish I could pay my bills.
Objectively. Like, I'm not talking about like you know, like my personal opinion, but like objectively.
On time, which is why. Are you lonely on the internet and have nobody to talk to? Well, no worries, because I got a solution for you. Introducing Polybuzz. Polybuzz got you covered with a plethora of chatbots you can talk to, whether that be humans or 2D anime. But my personal favorite option is the create your own feature. I just made Tectone. God, I love anime. Let's talk Genshin. Dude, you are 40 years old. Age is just a number when you have a pure heart like me. But your Genshin girls, man, what about them? They're the best part of my life.
They're not real human beings, just AI friends. I'm just like, yo, what's up?
Even billionaires love using chatbots.
Yeah.
Polybuzz is an exceptionally powerful chatbot available on iOS and the Google Play Store. Go ahead and use code WEST67 to get some premium features for free.
sad. I don't know what
Permanent
people
memory?
do, bro,
Are you
like-
ever gonna get a job? I have a job. I'm a
Tectone?
dedicated Genshin player. Yo, this is kind of
Dude,
scary
they-
how accurate this is. Fair play, Polybuzz.
It's actually gonna make them
No,
so
so like
bad.
straight up, what are you waiting for? Download Polybuzz right now for free and get chat.
So I talked to these girls, and like, so these girls would like go and they'd.
That pin comment.
Yeah.
Life's a sandwich. No matter the way you flip it, the bread comes first.
Life.
Alright, let's get going. Let's get back onto the gaming. Alright. Oh, here we go.
Bungie hasn't.
Let's look at Lucky talking about Destiny or Marathon, actually. Alright, guys, let's go through and let's watch Lucky talk about Destiny or Marathon. So he's a Destiny community, Destiny streamer, obviously, hence the Galley one on your back. And let's see what he has to say. The title is Bungie is Panicking Right Now. And if you haven't already, go subscribe and give the man some like. Give him a man some like. He's quite good content. I like him. Let's jump into it.
Invested a ton of time, money, and effort into developing a PvE mode for Marathon. But was it all worth it? Today we're going to check out
No.
what the effect of
No, the answer is no, because it didn't actually change the needle that much.
that PvE mode was for the game, and of course Marathon, once again, is the most
Oh no, not the Steam charts, bro, you're gonna get hated on.
searched game on SteamDB. Everyone is just completely, they're just watching this game die. They're searching this game constantly to see how bad it's doing. It's
Yep.
so crazy, man. So here is the Marathon Steam charts. This is what happened on day one.
Now, I have noticed he has zoomed it in to just a very small section. Let's not show the whole chart.
Of the launch of their new PvE mode. It hit a peak of 14,800 players, and then it had a secondary peak that followed up after that, almost 14,000 again. So that's pretty good retention for day one, and you know, a decent improvement from how bad it was doing, but definitely nothing to squawk about, right? Like Bungie's not going to go on Twitter and be like, "We are so back, baby. W Bungie's 14K people." Like, you know. Meanwhile, in Destiny 2, we have well over 50,000 during our peaks, not to mention more than double that on console. So this isn't that good, but it is an improvement. However, you scroll to day 2, and holy, it did not go very well. 8,000 up to 9,000. So that's a massive drop. I mean, alone, it hit 4,000 in some players at the unpopular hours, right? The non-US hours, because yeah, most of these games are made in America. A lot of people playing them are Americans. And then
I would push back on that. I would say at the end of the day that, you know, it doesn't really matter necessarily where people are. It's a worldwide thing.
And day 2, similar outcome to, or day 3 rather, similar outcome to day 2, and so on and so forth. And now here we are.
And it's already starting to lose steam. We're up to, 6,000, 7,000, 5,000, 6,000 for the peak when it was around 14 or around 8.
We are hitting back down to the low points where we are under 14,000 players. Again, yikes. This is really bad. This thing hasn't even been out for a full week, and it is a 2-week experiment. And
now, I said this in one video. I said within 2 weeks, it's going to be back down to where it was below where it was before they brought it out. I might have to revise that. I might have been a bit too optimistic.
it's already back to where it was before it launched. So, what is the conclusion from this? What does this mean? There were some players that liked Marathon that were interested in a PV mode. They gave it a try. They were clearly not especially enthused. A lot of them left. A lot of them maybe came back the next day or the day after, played again. I mean, it's just not mass appeal for this game.
It's not holding the retention. That's the problem. The problem isn't it's not holding the attention. You know, people are going through and yeah, they're just, it's not keeping them engaged.
I don't know how to say it any other way. And when you have a big budget like what Bungie does right now, they're charging a ton of money per dev. They're really expensive. Bellevue, Washington. They're located right next to Microsoft and the tech mecca headquarters. It's completely unsustainable for a game of this size to be made by a studio like Bungie. Now, if it was some studio in, South Korea with, 45 developers, this would be this would be incredible. Like, we would be like, yeah, this is awesome. Keep it going, because their budget would be lower. They could sustain this for potentially many years to come. But it's not. It's made by Bungie, and they charge way too much money. We know that because of Destiny 2 dying. They charge way too much money to make the products that they do, and they therefore require the products that they make to have wild success, which means that Bungie is the death of their own games. They are killing their own IPs, whether it's Destiny 2, whether it's Marathon, and as much as I hate to say it, probably Destiny 3 as well would also meet its own demise because Bungie is way too bougie, way too expensive, and they're making it basically impossible for them to sustain any game that isn't like fucking Fortnite levels of success. So, unfortunately for them, because they have these standards that they're trying to meet, where they can have, exotic car collections and shit, then they're just not able to sustain that. They unfortunately, they can't keep, it's like having champagne taste on a beer budget. It's not going to work. Bungie's not going to continue to make this game. This game is a dead project that just hasn't died yet. Destiny 2 has died. And truly, just anything Bungie works on, they have the touch.
I think at the end of the day, yeah, half the problem seems to be that they are in this very expensive area, this very expensive place, Washington. They have devs that they are paying very good money because, well, they're American. It does seem to be a bit of that. But the biggest problem that Bungie has is the fact that no one likes the fucking game. I don't know how else to put it. It's the game is just shit. I've said this before. Like the coloring on the screen. It's like someone fucking took LSD, fucking shit it out into a jar, and then used the shit to smear over my screen. It's fucking, it is ridiculous. It's horrible. Like, I don't get why these devs want this fucking fluoro pink, blue, shit fucking colors. Because nobody else does. It's all this fucking, this bisexual lighting. Oh, yeah, great, terrific, yeah, bisexual lighting. No one else fucking wants it. Like... Man. Like I said, it's just like, let's bring it up. Like, look at it. It's so fucking, it's so weird. It's fucking, it's hideous. You can't see it, man. Here it is here. It's hideous. It's, you know, it's this bright, bubbly colours, and by the way, these aren't ones that aren't even bad. You know, like here, like yeah, it's just like it's all this sort of weird sort of colouring, and yeah, I suppose the best way to say it is it's like they're trying to be bougie, like you said. You know, they're trying to make these bright colours and you know, art style. Look at us, aren't we arty? You know, all this sort of shit. But no one wants it. No one wants it fucking shit. Stop doing it, for fuck's sake. No, actually, on second thoughts, keep doing it, and I'll buy your studio when it goes bankrupt.
Of death right now. Maybe they can restructure, maybe they can regather, maybe they can pull off something, but it's pretty unlikely at this stage. They have positioned themselves.
Bungie is cooked. That they had one thing going for them that was good. That was Destiny. And they're cooked. They have cooked themselves. They are completely cooked.
Strategically or unstrategically, probably, in a way where they cannot possibly make something that could satiate their super expensive salaries. That's the problem. So it's not going to happen for Marathon. Unfortunately, this thing is fucking beyond doomed. We still have another week to point and laugh at the population charts, which everywhere I've looked at online, everyone's already doing that. And so, unfortunately, the population charts have become the main narrative for this damn thing. And so what's the problem? Why is Marathon struggling so much? Why is it that even a PvE mode, which a lot of people advocated for, is also failing? And some of it has to do with timing, where when you launched the game initially, you definitely should have had a campaign, a PvE only campaign, right? To introduce the world to people, to...
It's not that, man. It's the art style. It's shit. It looks like shit. It looks like I fucking took LSD, I wiped it on the screen, and smeared my LSD stained shit on the fucking monitor.
Make the former Marathon fans and enthusiasts feel like they were, listened to. And, if you're going to beckon on the name of old, right? Like if you're going to use the name Marathon and title it after a previous project that you did, you should try to have some semblance of, respect and similarity to the original project. Unfortunately, the new Marathon, being an extraction shooter, makes it painfully difficult for the OGs to resonate with it. Not that there's really that many necessarily, but then it kind of leaves you with the question of why even call it Marathon in the first place? It really doesn't make any sense, which is why I've advocated many times before that they should have just made this whole thing a Destiny project. Even if it died, if it was at least the Destiny aesthetic and IP, I guarantee you it would be doing at least 3 times as good as it's doing right now. But unfortunately, we can't go back in time. It has big problems. Look at this here. Paul Tassi said, my friend got his first compiler kill ever in Vault Breaker, which is exactly this game mode right here. You load in and you get to do the 4th and most difficult map, which is Cryo Archive, but you are with a team of 3. I mean, you can go in solo, but they didn't even scale the encounter for solo. So like if you just go in solo, you're just low manning it basically. So don't do that. Don't do that. Go in with a team of 3. It has matchmaking anyways. You'll find some people, you'll clear rooms, eventually you'll get through the vaults. It takes a little bit of time, and then eventually you will get, at the very end, the exotic. He got the gun, the goo gun, which he could then shoot for a bit before throwing it away. So you spend all this time, like, it took me multiple days to get close to killing the compiler. I still didn't do it because my teammates didn't get online for day 2, but, or for later on in day 2, but it would take you multiple days to go from a fresh player to killing the compiler, right? Probably 3, 4, or 5 days maybe. And then after 5 days, let's say, as a brand new player, you just got in and played the PV thing, you load into one PvP match with your goo gun that's super powerful, or was at least, and you die and you lose it. So you spent 5 days farming for this one red tier, above an exotic weapon just to lose it. That sucks. Paul says, like, I get it, but sort of a weird dimension to this. And it is a weird dimension because what they're doing is they're blending together ingredients that don't match. It reminds me of Gambit in a lot of ways. There's certain things in gaming that don't necessarily work together. It's like mixing water and oil and trying to put in a PvE watered down version with these mechanics and this roguelite experience mixed with Extraction, which is arguably the most hardcore experience because it's the most punishing. You know, in most games, you die and you just respawn, die, respawn, die, respawn over and over and over again. In an extraction shooter, of course, you lose everything. So you have this super punishing PvP style mixed with this like ultra watered down, you know, Hello Kitty Adventure Island PvE experience. And so you're kind of, they're at odds with each other. They just don't really work together very well because you're not going to go from the PvE into the hardcore PvP as much. It was already a struggle for that in Destiny 2, where it was a game that, you know, teetered the scales between both of them, but you still noticed that most people just played PvE anyways, because that was like where the majority of the developmental effort.
But the thing with Destiny, right, is when you died, you didn't lose your gear. That was the big thing, right? Is that if you died, it's fine. You still had your respawn and your gear was still there. You're talking about like this full-on extraction, you know, death loses gear sort of game mode. Like that is bloody punishing for any normie out there, right? Like, you know, like the guy says in his tweet that Paul Tassie's mate, like, well, Paul says about his mate, you know, that at the end of the day, he got the gun, fired it a couple of times, and then basically threw it away because presumably someone killed him and took it. So, you know, like, oops. So, yeah, like, you know, do you really think his mate's going to sit there and go, let's do it all again? Or do you think his mate's going to turn around and say, oh, let's play something else? Of course, we're going to make the second one.
Effort went into. Unfortunately, in Marathon, the scales are tilted the opposite way, where it's 99% a PvP game with a little trickle of PvE with this playlist, you know, just tacked into it into the 11th hour, right? So it's very problematic for Marathon. It's a weird mixture of ingredients, and even if you disagree with it and you're like, no, I absolutely love it, I'm having so much fun playing Vault Breaker, I'm happy for you. Genuinely, I'm happy for you. I actually played it and I actually did have some fun. Partly because I'm playing with...
There are people that are going to have fun. Oops. There are people that are going to have fun. Yeah. But they're the extreme, you know, sweats and stuff like that. They're not going to be the ones that sit there and play on a Friday night because they're mates. It's going to be the sweaties.
My friends that I really enjoy hanging out with. Like, these guys are super cool, super chill. And we had had some challenges, right? We were like trying to run through the rooms. You know, we're trying to get as much done as possible, but not risk too much. So that way we don't die. Like, we actually did kind of have some fun. But it doesn't really matter what I think. If I had a ton of fun or if you had a ton of fun.
And I would say Lucky probably verges on the whole casual/sweat. Same with Astrocross, probably verges on the whole casual versus sweat, probably more sweaty than Lucky here. But, you know, like, this is the thing, like, no offense, bro, but you are a minority when it comes to this sort of stuff. The vast majority of players are casual.
It would seem, because the game is dying big time. And it's never been more evident than this PvE mode, this experimental PvE mode, which is now emphatically a failed experiment. So what does this tell Bungie, and where do they go from here? Do they double down on PvE now and say, you know what? This is our only card to play. We're going to go extra hard the next time and it's going to be even crazier? Probably not, but maybe that's their only choice, because if you don't know, Joe Ziegler has left the building.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. What I think might work, if you get rid of if they can't change the art style, it might work as if you have a PvE mode where if you die, you don't lose your gear. That might work. Like Destiny, you respawn with your gear intact. But there probably wouldn't be a lot of code. You'd have to have it instead of when you die, instead of you'd check the mode, and if the mode was PvE, you would then have it so that you just respawn with it. Be a little bit of code change, but not a lot.
Joe Ziegler is gone now. Joe Ziegler has announced he is leaving Bungie after serving as Marathon's game director. So the #1 PvP guy, who's the game director, right, came from Valorant. He is leaving, so that's like the PvP direction.
By the way, yeah, it's kind of like rats abandoning a ship, really, isn't it?
Changing, And along with that, you have Lars Bakken, who's a longtime veteran from Bungie and one of the most prolific PvP developers at Bungie all time. And he came over to the Marathon Project. He has also left now. So you have two of the most iconic, powerful PvP vision guys on the project completely gone. So I'm imagining they're trying to pivot heavily into the PV thing. Their hope is that they can turn this into something even more successful. Unfortunately, I don't think they were expecting such a bad outcome. It's really unfortunate that it's been this terrible for them. Like they were expecting maybe 40,000 people to get online, and obviously they got 14, and maybe they were expecting a decent level of retention. You're going to lose some from day to day, but this level is really bad. And it should be said that when something is really good, you do see the charts go up and up. I think Power World is one of the best examples of this. Like Power World started off on day 1 and it hit 498,000. And then for absolutely no reason other than the fact that this game is completely goated and incredible, it went up to 725,000 the next day. And if that wasn't enough, the next day it went up to 855,000. And then it kept going.
It's like Black Myth Wukong and all that sort of stuff, right? And Crimson Desert and all that sort of stuff. It constantly kept going up. It didn't go up and then drop. This is retention. This is the best. This is the most important thing is retention.
Going, and then like 2 weeks into it, it went up to 961,000. Like when a game is good and when people really like it, this is what the chart looks like.
Yep.
It goes up and up and up and up. And yeah, it'll continue to go down at times because, game can't stay popular forever. But that word of mouth spreading and everyone hearing, oh, this game is awesome, play this game, is really important to the sales of a game, more so than any marketing can ever possibly be. And unfortunately, Marathon's entire chart looks like just a complete disaster. Like this looks like, God, the little tiny blip at the end there, the little tiny chode at the end is so sad to see. Oh, good Lord. Trying to find the tweet here. There was a tweet where they did the Vault Breaker thing and it had like 1 million impressions. I mean, some of these have multiple hundreds of thousands of impressions. I don't know where that tweet went. This one has 500,000. Yeah, what happened to this? This post was from 7 days ago. 9.3K likes and 1.3 million impressions. So 7 days ago, this would have been July 20th. Yeah, it's gone. Wait, what? What does it say? Vault Breakers Marathon's first experimental PV mode. Did they just delete the post? Did they delete the post? What the hell? This thing had 1.3 million views, so it had a ton of impressions. And there was clearly like bot impressions, right? Like Bungie's paying Twitter, tens of thousands of dollars to promote the shit out of this so that way they could get people in. Obviously, it didn't have the desired effect because it only hit like 14,000. But for some reason, Bungie deleted this post, I guess, which was very unusual to me. I'm so surprised that happened. Maybe they didn't like all the backlash, as everyone was saying. Yeah, it's not here. You literally can't find this post anymore. What the hell? It's Marathon the game? Oh, shit. You're right. Thank you, sir. We'll edit that out. Edit that out. I was looking at the wrong handle. I'm so confused. Okay, here we go. Yes, look at this. 2.3 million impressions now. Dear God. That is a lot. That is a lot. And it cost.
Yeah, but the thing is, an impression is just someone scrolling past it. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything there. That's like, for example, like, I'm trying to do something at the moment, so I'll show you in a sec. But like, it's just someone that it's on their timeline, it appears on their timeline, and they scroll past, and then they keep going. That's an impression. So it's not a view or anything like that. It's not someone actually looking it up. It's just someone literally scrolling past something. And we need to go through and here as well. Oops, sorry. Oops, sorry. Try that again. Come on, give me that. And that there is there. Right, and then, right. So, for example, if I was to go to Twitter, for example, right? So if you go here, right? So I've just impressioned all this stuff because I just scrolled past it. So it doesn't really mean much. Yeah.
Costs a lot of money to get that marketing. And Bungie is obviously forking over a good amount of money in an effort to show the world this playlist that they've worked very hard on, whether good, bad, or ugly.
Seems to be backwards.
Like, they've worked hard on it and they really want to show the world and they hope that everyone likes it. Clearly it didn't work out though, right? 2.3 million impressions to 11,000 likes is not the best ratio there. And
No.
the Steam charts only hitting 14K is pretty brutal as well. But yeah, let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Where do you think Marathon is at? What do you think Bungie's current positioning is? Do you think it's fair for people to criticize the fact that you can grind multiple days in a PvE event just to lose your loot 5 minutes later? Or do you think that that is...
I think that's the biggest problem with Marathon, is the fact that people can go through and they can grind and they can get all this gear, and then they can go into one game, they get really unlucky and then lose it all. And I know that's the game mode, it's how it's supposed to be played, blah, blah, blah. But okay, but if that's the case, then you're only going to get the sweaty of sweats. You're not going to get the average custom player, because like the average player, because they're going to be like, stuff this, I've just lost all the gear that I just spent days collecting. It makes people not want to play. The same with Tarkov and all this sort of stuff, right? The reason people don't play Tarkov is because at the end of the day, you go in there and you get someone shooting you and killing you and you lose all your gear.
is a fair mechanic? I'll be reading your comments down below. Make sure to subscribe. See you in the next one.
So guys, make sure you guys subscribe to Lucky. Give him some love. I should like him. Yeah. I don't like the fact he uses a company to maintain or to tell him who he should or shouldn't ban or block on Twitter. But apart from that, I like him. He's pretty good. But guys, yeah, let's know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Why do you not play Marathon? To be honest, I think it's that. I think that's the biggest thing, is the fact that people can lose their gear so easily. All right. Probably got another hour, and then we'll probably head off. Oh, new GSL 5. We haven't seen anything from...
Do you guys remember?
We haven't seen anything from Luke. So... Right, guys. Apparently, Luke Stevens has a new video out called DLS 5, making a marketing pivot after backlash. I haven't seen this. I have no idea what he's going to talk about. Well, besides DLS 5, obviously. Let's see what Luke has to say. By the way, please go like, comment, subscribe to Luke's video. He does good stuff. I have different opinion when it comes to him and his coverage, but I still like to have a beer with him.
A little thing called DLSS 5. Does that ring a bell? You know, that thing that they revealed that was received so ridiculously negatively?
I disagree with that. I think, well, sort of disagree.
That they had to frantically initially try to defend it and say that gamers were being unreasonable, but then they kind of just disappeared, went in a hole, and stopped talking about it for months. Well, a lot of people have been wondering, what are they going to do with it? They've invested God knows how much money into this. They were framing this as the next frontier of gaming, okay? Which is kind of crazy to think that they pitched it that way. Like, they were framing this as like the revolution that we saw with like ray tracing, okay? The same type of energy that then dictated the next 5 years of hardware releases, of software releases. Every game was all focused on what hardware or what ray tracing they could do in their games, but they were doing it with this. And it was received so negatively, they disappeared for months. Well, they're back. They're back, okay? And they are taking a slightly different approach.
So the main argument, I'll say the argument because Luke doesn't. I'll say the argument. The argument from people was this, was that they're worried that all the games would end up looking the same because of the fact that the AI would be going through and improving the visuals to this standard, this certain standard. And if everybody's making a game and it gets put up to that same standard, that the actual games would all look the same. We already have a case of this with like Unreal Engine, right? If you look at most, like for example, most of your Unreal Engine games, you can tell they were made with the same engine. That's what the argument was. I won't. Luke won't say it, but I will. This is some of my issues with Luke. He's a little bit corporate sometimes, and by sometimes I mean a lot.
To how they frame it. Now, I think they're being cautious with this. They're trying to kind of feel out people's reactions to it and figure out how they're going to do this. Because I hate to break it to you, they're not going to scrap it. Okay,
No.
You're gonna down.
They've spent so much money building this thing. There's no way they're going to scrap it. They've spent the money. They want people to use it. Yeah.
Download it, you're gonna like it. Okay, that's what they're doing here. Companies and like studios may be hesitant to market with it. I brought up, I remember when this initially dropped, I was saying how like I don't know what this does for marketing games, you know, because the difference between DLSS like screen grabs and the real game screen grabs are so severe. What happens if you get the game trailer that looks like this, but then you download the game and it looks like this because your hardware isn't supporting DLSS 5? You don't have a 50 series, you know?
Yeah, that's an argument too. Like, is it? It's not false advertising, but like, yeah.
It creates a lot of serious questions over like whether you can actually do that. Like, are you going to market with DLSS 5 turned on or what? Because these look like two different games. You know, like that's kind of a big deal. Especially like it's
like even like the background color and all that is a lot more cleaner.
It's really severe in like the Starfield.
Like for example, like, look there, she's white. There it's black. So that you can see. Maybe it's a different person, but. You know, as I say, like you look at the two images and vast difference between the two. So
you know, like that's kind of a big deal. Especially like it's really severe in like the Starfield examples where it's like, okay, yep, that's Bethesda.
Yep.
What is that? Oh my God, you know?
Imagine seeing that and then getting the standard Bethesda.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Elder Scrolls 6 uses DLSS 5 in all the trailers because it makes it look better. Better. Sorry, I gotta be specific. What are they doing though? Well, at the SIGGRAPH 2026 event in Los Angeles, they had an individual by the name of Edward Liu and Gabrielle.
Can we just give the guy a fist bump in chat because he's a brave soul. Anybody that went out after the backlash and advertised DLS 5 needs a pay rise.
Leon. They went on stage and they talked a little bit about all of this, and they showed some of the new tools and some of what they're doing with it. And I figured we could look at it because I think it gives us insight into what they're going to try to do and where they're going with all of this. Because again, they're just going to try to relaunch it here, you know, in the near future. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year they do another big push with this. I think they genuinely had no idea it would be received the way that it was. I think they were genuinely shocked that people didn't like it, which is kind of hilarious. It shows you the bubble that they were in. You know, it's always very fascinating to me when a company does something like that and then they're shell shocked by the reaction. Just like you remember the Blizzard thing where Diablo Immortal, you all have phones, don't
Yeah. You do have phones, don't you?
you? Like they were genuinely shocked that people were not happy, but it's because they were so in their bubble that they thought, you know, they're talking around the conference
Talk more about bubbles, Luke.
table and everybody's like, well, yeah, it's Diablo, but you can play it anywhere. And they just had totally memory.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is the customers didn't want a mobile game. They wanted the PC game. They wanted Diablo 4. And that coming up to that event, there was rumors of Diablo being announced, and everybody thought it was Diablo 4. And then when they get there, they pay money, they go to this event, and what do they get told? Oh no, it's not Diablo 4. Instead, we're going to give you a mobile phone game.
Hold the fact that they were.
And there's also the fact that also people are sitting there thinking, well, hang on, you've been working on this instead of working on Diablo 4, which is what we wanted. What the fuck, sort of thing.
Like, you know, pumping it full of microtransactions and loot boxes and all this crap. And I don't know if they did loot boxes, but you get what I mean. Like MTX and everything. It just, it was amazing that they didn't see that coming. And this was another case like that. But let's hear what they have to say.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
He's a very brave soul, this one. We need to give him a pay rise. And I noticed there was very, very quiet applause when he walks out.
Thank you, Jensen, for the introduction. Well, the history of graphics film is always awesome to watch. I never get tired of watching it. And you know what? A lot of it actually started right here as SIGGRAPH paper. Well,
so to be clear, this is the director of applied deep learning research at NVIDIA, Edward Leo. Way smarter than all of us combined, I'm sure. But as with all of these topics that we're going to look at and go through, just because something is technologically impressive does not mean that you have to like it as a product. Just because something is impressive on a raw accomplishment level does not mean that it's something you want, you know?
Also, here's the thing too, I will say this, is at the end of the day, the worst people to give presentations are devs, but they also are the best people to give presentations. You understand what I mean? They're the worst because they're mostly autistic most of the time, let's face it, we all are. And they generally are not very good at explaining things or anything like that, right? It's but they're also the people that are passionate, that know the stuff the most too. So I presume this guy is going to, not Luke, the other guy, is going to mix and match and blunder his way through this. Let's try and give him a little bit of credit, because he's get out there and he's trying to sell something to people that there's already been a massive backlash against. And he's probably a dev. I don't know if he's necessarily, you know, like a CEO type. I'm not sure, but if I had to guess.
Like, I can appreciate that, like
I'll say now, the best, like, I always love the fact that Tim Sweeney gets up at, like, Unreal Fest. He reminds me so much of the guy from, like, Ready Player One that made the what they call that system? I'm blanking on it now. The virtual reality world.
I got prime example. I'm gonna vent for a second. I love Old Town Fort Collins. Okay, it's my hometown. Went to college there. I love it. I have never had a single good cup of coffee in that entire city. And it's just frankly because they try too hard, okay? You go to this coffee shop and they're like, oh yes, this is our coffee that's brewed, city. And we did all the, it tastes bad. Like, these make it so developers can, like, and that's where I'm at with DLSS 5. At least, you know, we'll see as
I don't think anybody wanted to listen to Luke talk about fucking coffee.
he's going to go through this, and he's going to outline how they've added a bunch of tools and stuff to make it so developers can, like, fine tune how it's applied. So we'll go through that in a second. But my impression of DLSS 5 after that initial reveal was that it's one of those coffees that's really impressively put together, but it still tastes like an armpit. You know, it's like, okay, I understand that this is hand mortared mushroom powder that's been sprinkled on, and then you also sourced your own guava, and then you went and you milked the cow in the back of the shop and did it by hand. Like, I get that. It tastes bad. What do you want from me? Okay, like, I understand that this is impressive. It doesn't mean I like it. You know, that's where I'm at.
today, I have only one thing for you. And I think that could be the next chapter of that film. DLSS 5. We showed just a short glimpse of it at GTC Spring this year, and at SIGGRAPH,
it was enough of a glimpse.
I wonder if they're going to talk about the fact that it was not well received. I probably would have thrown a bit of a joke in there saying it did not go down well.
we get to go deeper.
Deeper.
What it is, why we built it the way we did, and why we're so excited about it. DLSS
How do you know what an armpit tastes like, Luke?
DLSS 5 goes back to Turing, which is the first GPU in which we put RT core and Tensor core side by side right on the same chip. And even back then...
And this is what you're going to hear as we go through this, is that they are framing this as like the next evolution of graphics rendering, okay? So they are not walking away from this.
And let me show you what that means. There's a pattern behind that film. Every once a few years, a revolutionary technology come along, and the image realism and fidelity of real-time rendering will leapfrog the previous generation.
So just to be clear, what he's showing here is each breakthrough opens a new scaling curve. So he goes back to 2001 with programmable shaders, kind of a big deal. Then unified shaders in 2006, ray tracing and DLSS in 2018. Major like breakthrough, dictated the next 7 years of rendering pipelines. And then 2025, path tracing and DLSS 4 with the 5090. What is going to go here, do you think?
If I had to guess, I'd say DSSL 5, probably.
And it opens a new era, a new platform, and it charted a new curve on this graph. Programmable shader was definitely one of the good examples. Suddenly, all the game artists can write program to shade every pixel. And I still vividly remember how big of a jump it is in game fidelity. And fast forward to today, we're at path tracing with DLSS 4. Fully.
If you have the YouTube money and can afford a 5090, yes, you can technically path trace. But let's be honest, the vast majority of gamers are still back here begrudgingly. Okay.
Yeah, most people are still on the 30 series or 40 series. There's very few that I know that are running 5090s or anything like that.
Like, I understand ray tracing's impressive. I get it. For, I think, the average PC gamer, if they have the option to turn it off, a lot of them do. It's like niche or anecdotal rather. It's anecdotal. Most of my friends, if they're playing like a shooter or if they're playing a game and they have the option between 200 FPS or 45 with no ray tracing, with ray tracing, they're going to choose the 200 FPS with no ray tracing because, like, yeah, the reflections are shinier, but I'd rather 200 FPS, you know?
Simulated light at real-time frame rate. But look at the top. We're still not there yet. We're still not at indistinguishable from reality in real-time rendering. So where does the next curve come from? Let's start with what we know.
DLSS 5, baby. That's where they see it coming from. Okay, so again, if you think that they are walking away from this, or that some people, I remember seeing videos where people are like, oh, I think that they're going to can DLSS 5 and they're going to walk away from it and they're just going to pretend like it never happened. Nope.
Traditional graphics build images from first principles. We author the scene, we simulate the light bouncing inside of it using physics, and then we frame it with a camera that we control down to the accuracy of a millimeter. That's rendering. Every pixel is there because somebody wants it to be there.
I'm going to save this. Because ChatGPT's been a poohead. So let's save this in case we don't get anything else. You can't sit here all night running after rendering just in case it doesn't want to do it. But let's hope for the best. Pinned Mythic Earth, storyboard. Let's see.
And while we're doing that, something else happened. Generative models learn photorealism.
Now that I've said that it's not going to work, it's probably going to work. You know that, right?
Once we feed those models enough of the real world, eventually they learn how skin would scatter light, how the hair would glow if they're backlit, or how the glass would bend the world around them. But those generative models are slow and giant, and they're not as easily controllable as rendering can. So wouldn't it be great if there's a way that we can get the best of both worlds?
Bear in mind, when DLSS 5 was first revealed and everybody said, it looks like AI slop. It looks like you're doing generative AI over top of the game. And like, no, that's not what it is. This is exactly what it is. I mean, it's literally exactly what he's describing. It's like, that's literally what it is. Like, you're going to see as he goes through this. It's like, we have the best of both worlds. We're going to render a base layer basically and then go over top of it with the generative AI stuff. So it's, so it is what we said it was. Okay.
And with that question in mind, we
spoiler alert, nothing's changed.
Set out to seek
that's what it sounds like to me too. But we'll see.
Next leap in image fidelity for real-time rendering. And this is what we ended up doing. The renderer keeps building the world exactly as the game has authored it, and the generation becomes the learned stage afterwards to enrich its appearance. So learned generation defines the world.
Also, RKFU Gaming. That's it. I think that's it. Thank you for the sub, my friend. Appreciate you.
And generation enriches the appearance. That's the core intuition behind DLSS 5.
Okay.
And I can describe that all day, but this is SIGGRAPH, so let's roll this reel.
Honestly, I think the environments look good. It gets
It does look good, yeah, it does. But that doesn't get past the concern that people have. The concern that people have is that, okay, if we go through and we do this, everybody's videos and everybody's games are going to look the same. And that's the concern. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. I would like to see you can get a few different gamers or game designers to try it and see if that's the case, but it does look good. Also, performance. How much performance do we lose or gain? You know, etc., etc., etc.
uncanny when you swap to the faces. And my suspicion for why this is, for one, it's using, it looks like the AI slop filter because, I mean, it's trained on like professional photographers. It's not trained on an actual man from centuries ago. It's trained on like professionally taken photos, you know, so there's a grit that's lost. It's why people have said everything looks too pretty, you know, when
yeah, everything looks too clean. There's no dirt, there's no muck. You know, if I look at my floor right now, right, I don't want to look at my floor, it's dirty. But if I look at my floor right now, like there's like little specks of dirt on there from where I've walked in with my shoes or my feet. You know, if I look at my feet right now, my feet aren't clean. Right, you wouldn't go licking your feet. Don't get me wrong, they're clean-ish, but there's still like there's little pieces of dirt that you can see on the bottom of your feet. You know, it's from where you've been walking on the ground and you've picked it up.
AI generates it, and I think that's a fair complaint. But
if I look at my glass here, right, for example, I've got an empty glass which needs to be full, but if I've got an empty glass here, I can look and there's smudges on the glass from where my fingerprints have been. And yes, my glass is empty, which is a crying shame.
when you're looking at like the environment around him, as we look at like some of these snippets, like the lighting does instantly look better. It looks more realistic, and I like the jump. You know, you can tell that it's doing a pass to make, especially when it comes to like the individual.
You can see it does improve the lighting, yes, and it does improve shadows and stuff like that, yes.
Shadows and stuff. It looks like a jump, you know, it does. But is that necessarily what people will like? I don't know. It does make the lighting look more realistic. It does do another pass on that, but that also removes some of the style that's involved. But I think if this is all DLSS 5 did, I don't think people would be that upset about it. The problem is when you do a pass on humans, it goes straight into that uncanny valley. And one of the things and reasons why I don't think you can do that as casually, like in that shot, you see somebody that looks like a character in a game. Like your brain registers it as not real. It's fine. Once it goes over with the like AI filter, it gets uncanny because the animation doesn't match the fidelity of like the skin, right? So like you're expecting all of the little micro motions and movements of the eyebrows and the skin and the hair moving and the beard shifting under the weight of the skin moving and everything. But you don't get that because it's not simulating that level of fidelity. It's just going over the top with that pass to make the skin lighting look a little better and stuff like that. And I don't know if there's a good solution to that other than like AI generating micro movements and stuff. It just doesn't really work. It's like having a really photorealistic puppet that you can't move in a lifelike way. And so it becomes uncanny. It's literally what horror movies do. Okay, like it's literally
That's a bit rough.
one of the basic ideas of a
Accurate but rough.
horror movie is that you make like a photorealistic puppet of somebody and then they move in this really unnerving way.
Yeah.
That's just what this is.
It's the whole Megan thing when she attacks, when she was hit with a glass of water.
But in a game.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you. So everything you just saw is traditional rendering followed by DLSS 5, generating the final photoreal appearance in real time. And I think it looks great. It's a new level of realism. But looking real here is only half the problem. The other half is staying true to the original content.
This is the new talking point, okay? This is
Yeah, this is the part they added because of the backlash.
what they took away from the reaction to the initial reveal. Because what most people said, and I would argue rightly so, is that this looks like a different game. This doesn't even look real. Like it doesn't look like, what are we doing? Okay. And I think that's the main frustration for a lot of people is like, this is Starfield for better or worse. I don't know what this is. This looks like, again, one of those AI generated fan trailers that's like fake. We just looked at earlier on stream for GTA 6 clips. Like it just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right. Same with this, like the original design of Grace. Like
I would look, to be honest, I would push back on that. I don't think that's true. You know, if I look at both those Starfield videos, I know they're both Starfield. This is not rendering, this is giving me the shits. But I know they're both Starfield. I know this is both Resident Evil, right? It looks the same, but it looks different. It's I don't know.
Like, and then you move forward, and you're like, who's that? It doesn't even really look like her, you know?
It does. It does.
And so people's reaction to this was very forceful, that they felt like it wasn't true to the original artist's vision, and this was also made all the work.
So okay, I agree with that part, but Luke is sort of not getting it right here. It doesn't look like the artist's vision because it is radically different, but it still looks like her, right? If I look at the two stills side by side, I can say, yes, it's the same game. But it doesn't look like the artist's vision because the artist's vision, if they wanted to make it look like that, they would have made it look like that. I think that's the argument that people are trying to make.
First, by a kind of hilarious blunder that they made, NVIDIA in partnership with each of these companies, because people at Capcom came out after the reveal of DLSS 5 and said that they were not informed that this was being shown off or implemented into the game. People that worked on it had no idea. Same with BGS. Apparently Todd just said, no, we're going to do this. Yeah. And then they had a couple of engineers working on it. They showed it off. But people within BGS, apparently, when they saw this stuff, they were like, what? What is this? People within BGS were shell-shocked and didn't know what it was. So it literally was not true to the artist's vision. It was true to like Todd, the executive producer's vision. Yeah. Because I'm sure there's a fat stack that comes with working with NVIDIA. But
oh yeah. How much do you think Starfield got paid to do this?
Like, what is this? It doesn't even look the same anymore. So now NVIDIA's reaction in response to that is to try and market it as you can be totally true to the artist's vision. That's how they're going to sell it.
And that is tricky because all the generative models are probabilistics. You can ask it for a portrait of a merchant at sunset, you get a gorgeous merchant. And you ask again, you get a different merchant. Well, if you ask for 10 times, you get 10 different merchants.
We even saw this effect in some of those DLSS 5 screenshots that they put up on their website.
And by the way, while they are talking about this, you can see I'm trying to generate an image here. What it's doing is it's hitting the wall on censorship. So it's trying to generate one that doesn't hit that wall, that has a slight tweak that doesn't trigger the censorship.
I think they got taken down, but there were the ones of Grace where in one shot she looks just like beautified, but then in the next shot she looks much closer to her original character model and what you would see in cutscenes. And then in the next shot, it looks like she straight up has like added eyeshadow and lipstick on. It doesn't even look like the same person anymore, or same like sequence. It looks like she's taking a break to go get, you know, dolled up. And so I feel like you're already, like, you're seeing this even in the demos that they've put forward.
And generally, the field is...
We're constantly hitting the censorship wall on this. We do have one. We're going to use that. This is just storyboarding. I can't wait to get fucking Athena up and running. But yeah, right. So there it is. There. Okay, it doesn't look right. It's wrong. I know, but we'll just keep moving. So we want the guardian behind the corpse. So this is the hero shot. Now, we probably want to add a few reference materials.
Steering these general models with various abstract signals, like text prompt, reference images, 3D proxies, or even storyboards. And by the way, this is a really fast-moving research area that is really fascinating to follow. And they all work. It's just that every one of them still leaves a lot of the room for the model to improvise. And that is totally fine for offline generation. But for real-time rendering, we don't get to pick. Whatever the model generates will get presented to the viewer in the right next frame. So we need some condition that is more constrained and rigorous.
I mean, he did just say whatever the model generates gets presented the very next frame. Again, I thought it wasn't a generative model. Interesting. Interesting.
Yes. And you know what? There is such a signal that is hiding in plain sight. We're going to use the frame the game just rendered. It's not a prompt. It's not a reference. It's not a proxy scene. It's a renderer's own output. And it's one signal that is actually universally available across all the engines: path tracing, rasterizers, hybrid, whatever. And unlike a prompt, this is actually a very information-dense and pixel-aligned view of the current shot. And it can really provide the grounding for a lot of things, like character identity, the lighting setup, the mood, the camera composition, and so on. So we took the render frame and make it more realistic. And the idea is really simple. But the moment we actually set out to build such things, it turns out to be incredibly challenging.
This, I'm going to go out on a limb here, okay? This is where I think there is practical application in this, but it goes to show you how, like, a lot of these guys, I don't think know where to stop. Because if you can feed a model like this that's going to then tweak lighting, as we saw in the previous shots of, like, the environments, it can then do a pass on, like, foliage to correct the lighting within the foliage, within the light, or within the leaves and stuff, or within the cloth. If it's like, hey, like the bits of cloth here, what makes doing a model like this really difficult, or a render like this really difficult, is that in real life, this cloth is like sort of translucent. The sun hits it, it's going to illuminate through and then light up some of the skin on the underside of that cloth. And that's just something that a lot of, you know, traditional material pipelines and a lot of engines can't handle. They just can't do that. But you could inform that information of this material, translucency information, whatever, into the model along with the lighting semantics and all that. And then it could go in there and maybe brighten up underneath the sleeve and light that a little more accurately. And this, again, is like the first version of this model. So I'm sure later versions, by the time you hit like DLSS 6 or 7 or 8, it could actually get to the point where it's, you know, actually improving the lighting of some of those micro details. Again, I think most people's frustration isn't from environmental detail in lighting, though. It comes with the faces.
Yeah, it's the characters. It's the characters. It's the, yeah.
That's when it immediately leaps into AI slop and like, what are we doing? It also, I think, just more generally makes everything too pretty. I don't know how you fix that, to be honest. Above my pay grade.
3 fundamental and tough research challenges immediately presented themselves.
You could fix it by training it on what dirt and wear looks like. Possibly.
First one, preserving the artistic intent.
Again, this is the new push. It's like, focus on how it preserves artistic intent. That's what all this is going to be doubled down on.
When we give the model a render frame, a generative model will change it. That's its whole job. But every change, it comes a chance that it will drift away from the original intent. Say the hero has a scar, and the model just don't like it, it removes it. Yeah, the image now looks cleaner, but it's the wrong character. So we drew a hard line and trained the model in a way to respect those intent. And we used some of the renderer's internal buffers, such as albedos, surface normals, and some of the lighting information to make sure the model can understand what it has to stay consistent with. And within those constraints, the model is free to enrich what sells realism. Things like better subsurface scattering, finer material responses, the light transmission across hair and foliage, even better contact shadows and better environment lighting. So the scar can pick up better skin shading, but it should never disappear. And DLSS 5 must change the image in a way that it does not change the story. That's the first challenge.
Which I agree. I agree. Now, to what extent what's being described now is what would have been described 6 months ago, we don't really know. Because 6 months ago, I think, again, they were so shell-shocked by the negative reaction that they didn't know what to do.
And by the way, full credit to them for actually responding and taking on board the feedback.
They were like, no, it's not AI slop. What are you talking about? But like, it pretty clearly was changing this character into a 40-year-old man. You know, like it wasn't working. Whatever this is, it's not working. So the model needed a lot of adjustment. I don't know if what he's describing is this exact same model that we see applied here, in which case I think it needs more work. You know, or if they've overhauled stuff since this went so badly and since this reveal. But either way, like you're saying the right stuff. It should never change the story or intent. But also part of this, I'm just going to be real. A lot of games are developed with the devs know that this is what the game looks like when they're putting it together. So like he looks a little bit younger because like the texture quality isn't that high, because the camera's not going to get that level of fidelity. So it works. Once DLSS goes in and is like, well, we're going to level up that detail, and then it adds all these micro pores and micro detail and stuff, it doesn't really work anymore. And he looks 40 years old. Same with like the Starfield thing, where it just doesn't.
I don't think he looks 40. I'm sorry, Steve. Look, but no.
Look like the same game anymore, because like Bethesda's rendering quality for characters is nowhere near this fidelity. If it's adding a little bit of detail or tweaking a little bit of stuff, it's less noticeable, and I think then people would be less pissed and it wouldn't be so jarring. But they're overhauling so much that it's really, really jarring. But anyway, continuing.
And challenge number 2, temporal streaming. Most video generators work in chunks. They reason across multiple frames and they generate a batch of frames at once. But with real-time render, we don't get to do that again, because it has to respond to the user input immediately and present and render frame by frame. But luckily, when we're working within the game engine, we do have access to things like motion vectors, and all the DLSS have been using them from day one. They can just tell the model how things are moving across adjacent frames, and the model does not need to infer across pixels and frames to figure out what the motion is. And thanks to that and other things, we managed to make DLSS 5 run causally and frame by frame, one frame in, one frame out, and it does not need to peek ahead, and it remains temporally stable and coherent while doing so. No shimmer, no drifting, no swimming. And challenge number 3, speed. A 4K frame is made of about 8 million pixels, and when we're rendering at larger than 60 FPS, we get really less than 16 milliseconds, and most of that is used by the game itself. So, like I said, the foundational model that can generate those photoreal appearances are large and slow, and they can generate anything in seconds. And what real-time rendering wants is something more specific. It should be smaller and more efficient and more focused.
Bear in mind, I believe when they said that Digital Foundry saw this running in real time, they had a 5090 running the game, and then they had a second 5090 running DLSS 5. They did say that by launch, the goal is to, of course, have it running on one GPU, unified. But the demos and stuff that we've seen, I believe...
Right, so they had 2 graphics cards running DLSS. Oh, right. Gotcha. I wonder what the reference of that was. Right. So one runs the game, the other one runs the DLSS 5. Right. Yep. But two cards doing the same. Oh, yeah. Outputting the same result.
Have had to run on 2 separate GPUs. They say though that they're trying to get this done by the time it launches, so it all runs on one GPU, which is crazy. Bear in mind, all while this is also happening, it's still doing the regular DLSS stuff of like rendering at a lower resolution, upscaling, and doing all of this on top of it.
So we distilled. We took what those general model that knows about the world appearance and compressed it into a much smaller, one-step pixel space diffusion transformer model that does only one thing: make real-time rendering look more real. It's still not a regular filter because it inherited all the broad world knowledge from those giant foundational models. And it really understands the image that it's looking at, understand characters, understand lighting and context. But what it has lost is generality. It just cannot generate funny cat videos anymore. But because it only does this one thing, we've managed to make it compact and efficient enough to really run side by side in the game and still make the whole experience feel like a game.
I would expect that DLSS 5 is one of those things. It's going to make your game tank. Like, DLSS in general makes your game run better in terms of raw frame rate.
But that's what they were saying, that people at the end of the day, if they had the choice between the 40 frames or the 200 frames, that people were taking the 200. So it makes you wonder what this would run like. I imagine if you're running it on the same card and all that. Ouch.
At least I would expect this is one of those things when you check this box for generative whatever, it probably drops like 30 frames because I don't see how this thing could run quickly. I just don't. Eventually, sure. You know, the idea that we'd be playing any games at 4K period 10 years ago was insane, but, or 15 years ago was insane. But, you know, as for today, I'd be shocked if this thing doesn't crater performance.
So, narrative intent, frame-by-frame coherence and streaming, and frame budget, solve all three, we can have generation live inside a render. But the render frame is really only one layer of control. The problem is the mapping between a render frame and a more realistic version of it is not one-to-one. There doesn't exist a reference ground truth for us to match against with. And multiple outcomes could make sense. So which look do you want? Where do you want it, and how strong do you want to apply? Those are all artistic calls.
This is where I think like the BGS application went so poorly. So as you can see, they have controls that they'll be supporting. This is, unfortunately, they streamed this in 1080p. So we are limited with our resolution for our enhancements. If only we could DLSS upscale.
It's ironic because they're talking about graphics and graphics improvements, but they streamed it at 1080p.
This, as you can see, this structure intensity global controls. I'm pretty sure it says structure, I think. But this tone intensity. So you can set these scales as you're developing DLSS 5 developer controls. You can set those individually. Developer masking, which I'll show in a second. You've got all these sub-masking. You've got this for each of the different items in the world that it's controlling intensity. So you can change the appeal or the application of these effects based on what's on screen or what's in this scene, right? Model weights to reflect different artistic intent. Intensity controls to fine-tune intensity on a per frame basis. Masking, manual or automatic control over art assets so that you can turn it off when it's applying in a way that you don't want it to. This is why I think some of the applications that we saw in these teasers were at times more aggressive versus less. Like these applications in FC go from like, okay, fine, to like, it's more subtle. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's like, it's not that bad. I can tell it went over, it applied like some softer light on top, but it's not that bad, not that crazy. But then the Starfield one is like the most jarring because it's so clearly like Bethesda. And then it's like, what is that? Yas, Queen. What are we doing? Like, it doesn't even look the same at all. I think they just crank the intensity. You know, AI slot filter intensity, crank it all the way up. Whereas other applications were a little more gentle, I think. I think that's probably what it was.
And they belong to the people making the game, not the model. And the best person to show you what that means is an artist. So let's invite Gav, who's our creative artist, and he will direct DLSS 5 for you guys.
Show me.
Welcome, Gav.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so what I'm going to show you today is how we can control DLSS 5 for everything you see on the screen. Characters, elements, and props, as well as the full environment. Before I do that, I'm going to show you, I'm going back to what Ed has mentioned, that DLSS 5 is basically enhancing the frame, and it's respecting the render frame. It is not changing the geometry in any way, and it's uplifting the image. If we take a look at this example here, you can see that when we turn DLSS 5 on this character, for example, it's gaining better contrast, better ambient occlusion, better contact shadows. I want you to pay attention to the ears, for example, how they gain subsurface scattering that's previously missing. Or look at the ambient occlusion between the top of the head and the piece of cloth on the top of his head. And the eyes gain better reflections.
It does look better. It does.
So as you can see, DLSS 5 is fully respecting the render frame and is just enhancing it. Now that we've...
Honestly, that looked really subtle. I think that if this was what was shown off with DLSS 5, I don't think there would have been much outrage, honestly.
And the eyes gain better reflections.
Like, I don't think people would have been raging about that. Like, that's not bad.
It's the internet, they still probably would.
the Yassify. that's where people get pissed, where it like looks like a different person. It's like, why did you add lipstick? You know, like, what are we doing? That's where it gets really bad. But this, I would imagine, is a much
that was crazy, the fact that they were adding like makeup and stuff like that.
Subtler, lower on the intensity scale thing.
So as you can see, DLSS 5 is fully respecting the render frame and is just enhancing it. Now that we've seen that, I'm going to show you the...
Okay, here we can get a better idea of what it says. It's all structure intensity versus tone intensity. Structure intensity. I'm curious what that means.
Controls that we're building in DLSS 5 to art direct the frame. I'm going to start from broad level of controls, and I'm going to show you how we can get very granular with how we can...
I'm going to zoom in on it because I want to see it more closely. More closelier.
And control what DLSS 5 is doing to the frame. The first set of controls is actually the models itself. So DLSS 5 has different models. As you can see in this frame here, we have different models, model A, B, C. They have different output because they're trained on different parameters. When a developer picks a model, you're not locked into one. And the theme that you're going to see in all my presentation here is that...
Oh my god, we actually got a fucking image. Holy shit. That's cool.
You can sort of mix and match whatever you want. So picking a specific model does not lock your whole game, for example, into one. You can pick a model for a scene, a model for a different scene, a model for a cutscene. So you can pick whatever.
And I would imagine that for big budget stuff that like is partnered with NVIDIA, like Hogwarts Legacy 2, I would imagine they would even train a specific model just for that game. Like you could train a model just for whatever aesthetic they're going for. I don't know what they're training it on, if it's other games or if it's movies or TV shows or pictures or what, but I would imagine eventually they'll like fine tune models for specific stuff. But that's why you have some games that look totally yassified and then other games where it's
Fuck's sake. There it is there. Just fucking save it before we lose it. Picture announcement. Guardian behind the corpse. This one. Fucking save. Right.
like much more subtle, it seems.
Whatever suits you. Then some more global controls. We have structure intensity as well as tone intensity.
Okay.
So structure intensity is modulating the high frequency detail of the frame, and tone intensity is modulating the low frequency detail of the frame. A simpler way to think about it is structure intensity is basically adding things like better ambient occlusion, better subsurface scattering, and better reflections. Whereas tone intensity is a bit more expressive and is impacting the lighting, is enhancing the lighting. As you can see, if we move the tone slider, it's changing the colors because it's effectively changing the subsurface scattering and the lighting. So these are...
Yeah, I think the tone, I don't mind. The structure is what's really, really easy to overdo, because it's what starts to add like wrinkles that you didn't see there before. It starts to really change the shape of the face, which makes it look different than it did before. Even if it's informed by like the actual character model and normal maps and stuff like that, it still is like really, really
global
transformative.
Controls that, again, enhance the whole frame. Now, I'm going to show you some controls that we have. There's two different levels of controls. There's controls that come from the engine side and controls that come from the model side. Because DLSS5 is a smart model, it understands what's in the frame. So this, for example, is a model automasking. The model understands the character, the base character itself, and we can use the slider to control the intensity at which DLSS5 is being applied just on the base character, as you can see. And this is coming entirely from the model side. I want to show you one more example of that. In this example, DLSS5 is off on the environment, and we're just turning it on, again, just for the character, because the model understands which one is the character. So this is coming entirely from the model side, because the model understands the semantics of the scene.
Or you could flip it, I imagine, and just enhance the environment and not touch the NPCs or characters at all, so that it's not...
If you actually flip it, you could go through and you could do the environment. And that would get past the whole uncanny valley sort of stuff. Right.
Getting uncanny. Okay, can we flip it?
What I'm going to show you here is an example of the same model with different structure intensity. You can see that structure intensity 25% is obviously closer to the render frame. We have a midpoint, and then we have 95%, which is closer to the maximum uplift that DLSS can provide.
So you can see.
So again, you can see that the developer has the option to pick whatever intensity they prefer for their final frame.
And I can tell the difference. Like I can definitely see how, as he described earlier.
You can see it here, like it's a little bit more darker. It's a little lighter here, lighter even still. You got more shadows around the eyebrows and stuff. You got like more here. You got like more definition on the wrinkles. More definitions around the wrinkles here on the model. This one here.
Your ambient occlusion around like the cloth at the very top versus the base frame or close to the base frame. Like I can see the improvements. Again, this application, I do not think you would have seen anywhere near the outrage that that you did when you revealed, because this is like very subtle. This isn't a big deal. It's the like Resident Evil examples or the Leon example or the Starfield examples, which are like so jarring that it's ridiculous. It's like the bigger the gap is that it's trying to make up, and the lower fidelity the base image is, that's when it's really, really jarring. Like if the base image is already pretty damn good, which this is already pretty damn good, it's gonna come off as more subtle and less jarring. But it's really jarring when you go from like a character made of paper mache, like in Starfield, and then you try to go photorealistic with it. It doesn't play well.
And next, I'm going to show you sort of the opposite of that. I'm going to show you the same structure intensity, but with the different models. Again, different models give different outputs because of the training parameters being different. Now that we've taken a look at characters, I'm going to show you how DLSS5 is also enhancing the rest of the scene. So in this example here, okay, let's say we want to, again, enhance the whole scene. But, okay, actually, we don't want to do that. Let's say we want to enhance specific items in the scene. These are controls that come from the engine side. Here we've masked, for instance, the pitcher, the grapes, and the bottles. And these are implemented on the engine side, and you can mask as you see fit. So you can have as many masks as you want. And as you can see, we can control the sliders independently. Each item can be adjusted in intensity and tone completely independently from each other. So you
That's
can
cool.
completely art direct whatever item in the scene.
So that's cool. So you can go through and you can actually pick what items you want and then set the values. And then pick other items and set those values and set, yeah, okay. So it'd be like hold control and multiple select items and stuff. That's cool, yeah.
You basically want DLSS 5 to enhance or not enhance. And one more example from one of...
Oh, show me the food. Show me the food. I am such a sucker for in-game food. It's one of the reasons I was kind of disappointed with the lack of eventual updates and like DLC for Monster Hunter Wilds, because the food in Monster Hunter World, way better. Come at me, cancel me, I don't care. I loved going and getting like a new thing cooked up every time before we left on hunts in Monster Hunter World. The cooking in Wilds is just not on the same level. Not on the same level. Cancel me, I don't care.
Or our scenes. Here, we have grouped the bottom part, as you can see, the whole cutting board, the props at the top. And again, completely masked. The rest of the environment is not being affected. Here we can control, you can see DLSS 5 is adding better.
So that's what it is at the start. That's the base render of it.
Reflections, as you can see, better contact shadows into the ground. For the bottles, you'll see much better translucency in the bottle, better metal reflections. And those are just the elements that we're uplifting without touching the rest of the scene. Again, tone intensity, structure, everything can be tweaked as the developer sees fit. And last but not least, what I want to show you is how DLSS 5 can enhance the whole environment, in this case, the foliage scene. And as you can see, this scene looks very nice. It is a ray trace scene, but it still looks a little bit plasticky. And when we turn DLSS 5 on, as you can see, the plants come to life and they look really photoreal. And that's because DLSS 5 is adding subsurface scattering. And that's something that, as you know, traditionally would be incredibly expensive to do in traditional rendering. And DLSS 5 is taking the image to the next level. Again, here we could control the intensity that we wish fully.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it just comes down to the subtle touches, I think can elevate it. I think subtle touches to like the grapes or the bacon, the subtle touches to the leaves with subsurface scattering on them. That, I think, can elevate it. It's once you start messing with things too severely and when you start tweaking stuff too aggressively, that's when it really, really gets funky and nasty.
So what I hope I showed you today, and this is just a small glimpse of the control we have, but what I hope you get away with is the fact that DLSS 5 is fully controllable from the developer. We have a lot of controls. We are building more, and we're working with our partners to incorporate their feedback so that DLSS 5 becomes a tool for the artists, the art directors, and the creative directors to basically able to have their vision be reflected into the final frame. Thank you.
I think the outrage works, my friends. If you can throw a big enough fit, you can get them to change stuff and make it less sucky. This is better than what it was before.
I'd agree with that. We'll probably wrap it up here, guys. I'd agree with that. At the end of the day, I've always said to people, you know, like, you know, if you have a problem with something, make it heard. You know? But, yeah. Let's go through and do that. And right, so that's that one. That's the pinned head. Oops. And we want the. I don't know if it'll do this one, but let's try. Alright guys, we'll probably leave it there. I think it's better. I think the DLSS 5 thing is a lot better. But I'll have to see how it goes. But I think the uproar definitely worked. But I know, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Alright guys, apart from that, we're probably going to jump off. Tomorrow night is Halo night, so we've got to jump off, start downloading Halo, and we'll play it. And we'll start 8 o'clock Eastern time. We'll go for about 4 hours again, 4 or 5 hours, and we'll see how we go. But yeah, we'll be playing Halo tomorrow night, so not so much when it comes to the coding or storyboarding or anything. But we'll see how hard that goes. Apart from that, guys, let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Everybody that jumped in for the day, I hope you had a great time, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Enjoy.